a lowercase ps and then a number. So like PS 10, your login is either password, that'd be the first one I'd try, or it could be password 1, depending on. PS 10 through 20 was used the other day, so that should all have a password. That should get you in. Or you can just be in your own site because it's going to be a lot of show and tell. Okay. Good morning, Tim. Okay. So I'm in PowerSchool right now, and this is the splash page, if you want to call it that, the home screen where you're going to come to right away. A number of things, and you guys are starting off at a good time because just last week or the week before, PowerSchool 20.4.2 came out. So it was an update, and it looks different than what it did before. So there's some new things here that are going to be kind of handy. Let's go to the upper right here on your screen. If you have test 1 or if you're in your local school, that's cool too. So get logged in your local school.
Hey, Glenn, this is Holly. Yes. What did you say was the username and password for that test site?
The username, if you try PS10 and a login of password, you should get in. And I have those set up for like PS11, PS12, PS 13, and so on, all the way up to like 20. Although you 2 people won't be able to be logged in at the same time, so I thought I sent something out, didn't I? Well, I wouldn't have gave that to you, Holly, so why don't you try like 20? And if you do have problems, just chat Lenora over there and she can create a login and password for you also. Okay, so right up here, top right, when you get logged in, you'll see your initials there. Go ahead and select your initials and you'll see settings. Here are some things you can change within PowerSchool. You can change your password right here. If that's important to you and you want to make a change. Sign in options. Now, depending on what your role might be in the school, you might want to change this. I always come to the start page, and I think 90% of people do. But what if you're the attendance secretary and that's what you deal with is attendance all the time? You might want this absentee report. Or maybe you start your day with the daily bulletin and that's what you do. And I might as well go there right away. That's the first thing I do. So it's kind of up to you. You can choose, but I think a lot of people go to that start page. Then when the students log, or not the students log in, when you select a student, what do you want to see? Do you want it to go automatically to the quick lookup page or some other page? Again, I think probably 90% of people do the quick lookup screen, but it depends again on what your role is in your school. It's kind of nice that you can, customize that a little bit. Under the interface, disable new experience. I don't know why you do that as a beginning person because you know no different. And if you're an experienced person, well, you're going to have to change sometime. So just go with the new experience, bite the bullet, and do it now because there's some nice things in there. Here's the one thing that you guys will want to change because we've had tickets on this one. You want to check the box to display the quick search alphabet. For some reason, PowerSchool decided to make that as an option, and I think a lot of people like that. They're like, hey, what happened to my alphabet? And what I'm talking about there is right here on our start screen, they took the alphabet away. And that was the first thing people looked at was, oh my gosh, what happened here? Well, we get that back by going up here to settings, going to our user settings and checking that box and submitting, okay? So when your experienced administrators in your building are talking about, they took the alphabet away, you can go, oh, let me help you. And you can seem real knowledgeable in that. The next one is Power Schedule Task Navigator. That's something that will open up a screen in the lower left and kind of show you the path you're following. I don't use that, never have. I don't know why. I guess some people might use that, but I never have, and you can fool around with it if it's something you want to do. I think what most people do is right up here, they follow those breadcrumbs that you'll see as we work through. They'll say, oh, I need to go back to this page or whatever. We're only 2 pages in now, but I don't see a lot of people using that task navigator. Then smart search options. Disable smart search. You don't want to do that. You want smart search being there. That's real handy. Yeah, I mean, that makes life so much simpler. Yeah, why would you ever get rid of that? And then include inactive students and staff results. Again, that's going to depend on your role, what you're doing. An enrollment secretary who handles all enrollments in schools, you know, when you get, say, it to a Bismarck or a Mandan, Williston, your bigger schools where you have those people that are sitting there and that's what they do, they might want that. So, but it's up to you again. You can try it. If you don't like it, this is where you come to, you know, uncheck the box. Okay, but this is definitely something you'll all want. So we submit that. And then right next to our initials up here is the help menu. This can be real handy. You go ahead and select that. Let's just do the system help here. When you have questions on, I don't quite understand how this works, this is a nice place to go. And what they do is have some topics that are kind of, you know, important at this time of year. Like right now, look at all the stuff on enrolling students and transferring students. Kind of handy to have there. And definitely, if you don't understand what you're doing here, submit a ticket. If you have, I've never enrolled students in my school before, I need some help. Call, one of us will get on, we'll spend some time. I'm doing that this afternoon with a lady who's new to scheduling students. She's never scheduled students before. So I'm going to call her up and we're going to go through scheduling her kids. And this is how it's done. Although we're going to talk a little bit about it today, she wants more help, you know, so we're definitely willing to do that because that saves us time in the end. Okay. But look at all the help things here. We can also search up in here. So that's something you can do. You know, maybe you're saying, well, I don't want to submit a ticket quite yet. Let me see if I can find the answer. Yeah, nice. This comes in real handy. You know, you're at the school, it's 4:30. You have JV or a C squad game starting and you're not going home. It's kind of nice just to come in here and read through some of this and check some things out sometimes. Okay, so that's our help menu. And it opens up in another tab. Print icon, real nice. This, you know, comes in real handy. Depending on what it is and what you're doing, if we were going to, let's say a student, I got Victoria here, and let's say mom and dad wanted just a quick shot of her grades, you know, in your school. I bring up this screen and I just go over here and print the screen. There you go. That's what it is. You know, so it's kind of nice. Sometimes you have to print some things. Report queue right there. What that's going to show me is the last reports that I've run. So I've run some different reports here, and I would use this if I know I'd run a report and go, oh, I just ran that one. Okay. Then I'd come over here. Maybe I want an updated version, whatever. I can select it right here and go run that job again. It runs that job again. And then I come and I refresh. And now I can view that report. Okay. Kind of handy. So sometimes we'll use that. This is just notifications here. Not really big. I don't even pay attention to it. And this one will just slide open a drawer for Blue Steel Power Source. Really, you're not going to use that really. Okay. Right below that, years and terms. right now we're working in the 2021 school year, okay? This is an update, or in that it's ordered differently. It used to be that the most current year was down at the bottom. Now it pops up right away. That definitely makes sense, doesn't it? So sometimes you're going to want to remember this. You're going, well, how come I can't see? I'm only seeing semester 1 classes. What's the deal? You know, I want to see the whole year. Take a look at this. You might have, you know, just S1 selected there, or, you know, a quarter, depending on what your school has. Our test site has everything, okay? So depending on what you want to do and how you do things, you'll set things up, or you'll select this right here.
And Glenn, just to add to that is your school has something set as a default for the term. And so even if you have changed yours for one day, the next day you come back, it'll go back to whatever that default is. But if it gets changed for you, it gets changed for everybody in your school district.
Yeah, so sometimes you want to talk to one another, you know, with that elementary principal and high school principal, and, you know, if things are different, go, hey, this isn't working for me. Every time I log in, I got to change it. Can we do a year type thing? Can we come to some agreement? So yeah, you'll want to visit about that. The school, just as Lenora said, when you created an account there in PowerSchool, you have a home school. So my home school, when I logged in this morning, it went to Edutech High School. All right. And there's a number of schools there, as you can see, for our test site. You're probably going to have, you know, if I'm in Mandan's going to have something that looks like this, a whole bunch of schools. Williston will be the same. But if I'm in New Salem, let's say, there's probably going to be elementary, middle school, or I mean elementary, high school. There's going to be a district level school, which we a lot of times will put homeschool kids in, or students that are placed in different facilities. That's where they would go in. And then there's the district office. Okay, so that's what yours would typically look like, and you can set that homeschool for teachers too. You know, sometimes we have teachers who maybe teach elementary PE and high school PE. Well, you know, 75% of their day is in the high school, so we would make that their home school, something like that. Now, something new to PowerSchool right here. This was never there before, and this is it's a little bit different at each school. You'll have to set it. Is this quick data? So for somebody who deals with attendance all the time, this is kind of nice. Those attendance secretaries, who's taking attendance for the day? Say, Lenora, could you take attendance in your class today? She's going to go ahead and do that, and then we're going to see what that looks like. At risk, right here, we can take a look at that and see what students we have in each area. What's our numbers? We can view that just a little bit more. Pops open another screen there, and we can take a look at, you know, these numbers. Okay, who are our students who are low, you know, and so on. And you set these up, these preferences here, as to what determines a low, moderate, and so on. So, you know, depending again on what your role is, you would want to know that. Sometimes we're in a school, you know, my school wasn't that big, and I knew who my at-risk students were. I really didn't need this graph to tell me who that was. But the larger you are, the more you might want that. Or again, depending on what your role, if you're strictly an attendance person or a secretary, let's say just a school secretary, do you really care who's at risk? It's not your job. So you're going to come here to this gear and you're going to say, I don't want to see at risk. And incident count, we really don't use incidents in North Dakota a whole lot. Some schools might use it, but we find that they use log entries a whole lot more. It tends to be the teacher can submit a log entry. Incidents a little more involved, so we don't see that a whole lot. I think if we got it where, you know, your expulsion and suspension reports could be pulled out of there into the state of North Dakota, we'd see that more, and I think that'd be a good thing. But you know, that's above me. So
I have attendance, but you might have to refresh or something for it.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. So incident, I really don't want that neither. Let's go ahead and refresh that screen. Oh, look at that. So we have some attendance there, but I have some teachers who haven't submitted their attendance yet. That never happens in your guys' schools, I'm sure. So right there, it shows Lenora submitted attendance, but Glenn, Robert, and Jack have not. And I believe this is only going to show for those that have a first period class. Okay, so we'd be in that first period right now. So we're the only 4 that have a first period class that need to submit attendance. Kind of nice. But again, what is your role? If I was still the principal at the school, not really my job to know who submits attendance. My secretary would have wanted to know. She'd have this up all the time. Okay, so I can just take that away. Now that opens up that whole screen for me to do work. Okay, and I kind of like the big screen type thing. So I would want that. Now, what's also changed this year, and I like it, is instead of tabs here of students, staff, contacts, little pull down menu. So students are right there. And then if I want to look at staff, now this changes here too, doesn't it? Teachers, staff, lunch staff, and so on, depending on what you have set up. And then contacts, which is something we work with and is kind of new last year that we really encourage people to go to. Not a whole nother training, okay? But that's right there. Now we can search for our contacts in there. So when we're at the student level, and I want to see all the students that have a last name that starts with B, I just select B, okay? You know, K and so on. That's how that works, easy enough. I want all the 9th graders, I select the 9th grade, okay? I want all the males in high school, I select all the males. Maybe I want all of them. I go ahead and select all the students. Sometimes we want that, okay? So that's kind of handy. The other thing that's nice about this new version is we have the students here. Now, since I see it, this clear all button, you're going to want to remember that. Because sometimes you're going, I'm not getting what I want. And what you have is a whole row of searches in here that need to be cleared out because nobody's meeting the criteria you have set, okay? So we're going to clear that out. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go, I need all the students with the last name of Weinman. And there they pop up, right? How sweet is that? That's nice. Now I can clear that. I can do first name. I can't remember the girl's last name, but she said her name was Maria. Oh, yeah, sure. Right there it is. You see how handy that is? Kind of nice. State student number. You might need that if you're that person who's doing enrollment or works with stars, okay? Grade level, we can do that simply right here. Gender, same thing. We can select that gender and go females. Oh, I got to clear this. There we go. So I'm going gender. Select, let's go all the males. And then let's search. And that brings us to another mistake that can be made. And this happens. I go search for the gender equals male. And I hit enter. Oh, that one worked that time. Sometimes you got to go over here and do this search button. In some of these cases, I think when you put the formula in, it doesn't work. And you'll hit enter and you're going, nothing's happening, and you get all frustrated. Remember, use the search button over here. So I'm going to clear that. So we can do that. Now we can do multiple searches too. So let's say the county health nurse is coming to school and she says, you know, could I get all the 7th grade girls to come to the gym for testing? So you're going to come here. You have your students. You're going to say first, I want grade level. Let's do 9th grade. This school has that. So I'm doing 9th grade. And then I have those 9th grade girls now, or 9th graders, all of them. And then I'm going to add this right here, and I'm going to say, I want the girls. Enter. Now I have 9th graders that are females. Now it's all my 9th grade females. Now that works handy if you're using these options, but sometimes we have other things we need to search for, and we need to do a compound search. Compound searches are easy enough in that you just need to know the field name, okay? So we can go right here and we'll type in gender, or we begin to type it. Right there's the field name. That's what that smart search brings up for us. Real handy, right? Gender equals F, and now gives us a little line there. I'm starting to get a long list of all my females in school, but now I'm going to go ahead and do a semicolon. All right, semicolon equals grade level, and you see how nothing's popping up now because you can't do that when you have a multiple search. It'll do the first one but not the second one. But I know it's grade underscore level equals 9. Now it's just going to be that group. And now if I hit enter, I'd have a problem. I'm going to go over here and select search. And there's my 9th grade girls again. So if I'm wondering, well, how in the world do I know what the field name is? That's kind of frustrating. I'm going to go right here, select the view, or select view field list. So I select that, and here again where smart search is beautiful, we select right up here in the filter, and I begin to type gender. You see how it's narrowing things down? Here's all my fields. Yeah, this is the one I want right here. There it is. That's the field name. You know, and we can do that with many different things. I want to know locker number. You know, so let's say the drug dog came into the school and it hit on locker number 10. They radio down to you, call you and say, hey, I need to know who's in locker number 10. So you're going to go ahead and whoop, let's do the search. We'll go to search, and what's that field name? Was it locker underscore or locker number, or what the world was it? You're going to come here, begin to type locker. There it is, locker underscore number. Select that, equals 10. Up, Tulsa. She's the one I want. So I select Tulsa, and yeah, okay, her schedule would be here. We're in first period of the morning, and I'd say, well, let's say this is first period. She's in accounting, and I need to get her out of accounting. She needs to come to the office. So you see how that searching for that can work for you, and why I stressed so nice to have that enable smart view or smart search. You're going to use that a lot when you're looking for different, I shouldn't say a lot, there's things that you'll need to do throughout the year, and who in the world can remember, you know, all those formulas. Some you're going to use a lot, or field names, some you won't, okay? So that's real handy. Sometimes there's searches that we use all the time, and we might want to store them. So let's see what's here for a stored search. Yeah, there's a number of them here, isn't there? You see there's the pre-enrolled. Sometimes attendance people or secretarial staff will use that pre-enrolled, and you'll want to know, well, who's my pre-enrolled students? So we put that in as a stored search, and right there the formula is, okay, it's /. So what a / does is it looks for all the inactive students with an enroll status that equals -1. -1 is pre-enrolled, okay? If you have a 0, that's an active student. So I can go ahead, I'm going to submit that and just come down here and let's run that search. I don't have any students that are pre-enrolled right now. Okay. but that's how that can work for you. Now, depending on, in some schools, they'll do this and some they don't. I know secretaries will say, you know, it's nice to have, some will do this. It's nice to know who is going, can I get a class list of all those people that are going ice fishing today? Let's run the search. Okay, I have 6 kids and I select those 6, and you could go ahead and just, you know, copy them or do whatever you're going to do with them, select them, and we could change attendance for them. So that's an option for us. Let me get back to that. There we are. So these are my 6 kids that are going ice fishing today. Now I could copy and paste that into our school announcements and say, these kids will be absent today. They're attending an ice fishing tournament. Okay, that's nice. Sometimes some schools don't use that because of, especially like track season. I remember my school secretary, she'd get frustrated with it, to get a list of who was going to track, and then it'd change. Yeah, we decided to take Angie, but Angie isn't coming. We're taking Katie instead, and you got all this stuff going on. So in the end, what she really did was, track coaches, I want a list from you. You email me a list of names, and she'd send it out that way, you know. But it depends. You can do what you want and what works for your school, okay? But let's say now I have this group of students, right? I've selected them from a stored search. And let's say I want to go ahead. Didn't we check Victoria? Was she the one that had a second hour class? Well, it won't make a difference. Let's go down here. I have my 6 kids. I'm going to come down to the bottom right with what we call our group functions menu down here. Okay. And I'm going to say, for these 6 students, I want to change their attendance. Okay. For today, I want you to scan all of these periods. I want you to scan all codes, and I want you to change that to extracurricular. Okay. They're gone for a school event. And overwrite anything that maybe the teachers have put in, okay? Overwrite any code that's there. So I'm going to submit that. Now, if I go back, you can select the back button, or sometimes I like to go right here and just select this. I use this a lot. Come up here, boom, selects that. That takes me back to the start page. Here are those breadcrumbs I'd mentioned earlier. You see where you can get back to certain screens that we maybe want. Right here, that's going to take me to the group functions, special functions, and so on, okay? So I want to go back to my start screen, and let's just take a look at those students then. Let's take a look at Victoria. Victoria comes up. Oh, look at right there. She's extracurricular all day today, or for 5th and 6th hour. See how that made that change? A nice way for you as an attendance secretary to grab a group of kids and make that change. Now, let's take a look at it and say, use my example. These are the 6 kids that I've assigned to ice fishing, but, you know, Victoria's not going. She's not eligible to go today. So what I would do then is I'd come over here and I'd select by hand. I'd come up here and deselect Victoria. Now it's just these students that I need to change the attendance for, and I can update the selection and have that done. Okay, now I can make those changes. So we can select certain students by hand, depending on what you're doing. You know, you can do that if we were in here too. I want the 9th graders, but I don't want them all. I just want this one and this one and so on, okay? So that's real handy, selecting by hand and using that group functions menu. Now, back to our stored searches. There's a number of them in here, and this would be common if you look in your school. You'll see a number of them there, okay? And depending on what you're using, they work kind of nice, and just, it depends, okay? But if it's something you're going to do all the time, it's a nice thing to do is create that stored search. And they're not difficult to do. You can just go up here. You're going to need to know your field, okay? And you'll come up here and just select new. And I want to call it, let's say pre-enrolled. And I know what that one was because we just seen that, right? It was a / enroll _ status equals -1. And I'd create that again. I could select this quick search bar. That is a plugin that with this new version didn't show up for us. So it's kind of a bummer, but let's say I'm hoping that it comes back someday. So I'll check that and then submit. So the key would be knowing what they are. And if you need some help with that, we can do that. Okay. So back to our start page. Stored searches, stored selections. Sometimes we might have a group of students that we have, and we want to store that selection with a certain name, say football roster day 1. It depends. I don't see really too many schools using that. They might, but that's a little more advanced, and it's something you can think about if that's what you want to use. Okay. View field list if you want it. Advanced, I don't see a lot of people doing advanced searches. Okay, that's something that would be for another class sometime. And then homeroom search and incomplete enrollments. I believe those are add-ons that you might not even see those on your site. So any questions on searching for students right now? Anything we didn't cover that you have a question on? You'll notice down here, sometimes, oh, how come they're not showing up? I only get this many. It's not going. Remember, there's pages here, okay? So let's select a group of students and do some things with them then. I'm going to come here, and I'm just going to grab a couple. I don't need a whole bunch of them. I'm grabbing my 3. I'm updating the selection. And let's talk about the group functions menu down here. We use that a lot. So we're going to come here and say the group functions menu opens up. And if I want to look at the student screens, I can look at them. I talked about attendance change already, didn't I? I can search by grades and attendance for these students. Okay. Here's something you want to remember when you're doing reports and, with these searches. You'll get options like this, and it's the first one for the selected 3 or for all 1,071. Pay attention to that. I want to search for students, and in this one, the box for scan for attendance is checked. So I could say I want to scan for attendance, and I want to know how many students have missed with this attendance code, whether it be absence, all absences, or whatever it is. We got a whole boatload of them right here. But let's say we're going to look for all absent codes that are greater than 1 period. Schools will use this. Some schools have that policy, where you can't miss more than 10 days or you're going to lose credit. Maybe you're getting to, it's that time where it's getting close to the end of the semester. You're maybe November, the first part of November, and I got some kids that have missed a lot of school. I better get on top of this. And you're going to come here and greater than 7 absences, you're going to find those kids and send a letter out to those kids who have missed that much and saying, hey, you're getting close to the makeup time or losing credit. Just want you to know, and you're going to let the parents know and so on. Have those meetings with those kids. So I'm going to go ahead. Greater than 1, I'm going to make this student the current selection, or I'm going to display matching students in sections. I'm just going to make them the selection. Okay, so I'm going to scan for that. So let's see what we get. No. Let's go back. Use that breadcrumb again. Scan for grade. Let's see. Let's use the extracurricular. Do I have that choice?
And
there.
Glenn,
Yep.
I have a question. That's where you bring a low grade report. My answer is no, you really wouldn't. There's a lot of, you could, but there's a lot of better options out there. So later on, when you go over some reports, let's look at that low grade report for things like eligibility.
Okay, will do. Yeah, this is more or less a way to find our kids that have attendance issues. Okay. I'm not coming up with that criteria. I bet it has to do with this historical grades as of the current grades of S1 store grader. Let's change it. Well, yeah, because those kids might not have been in my extracurricular class. Now I'm going to get some kids. Ah, come on. I'd have to play with that. We're not going to kill a bunch of time with it, okay? But that's where you can get that list of students that are missing those days. It's one way of doing it, okay? Now, if we go back, let's just take care of that question right away that Clay had there with the low grades report. There's several ways of doing that. One is in PSCB custom reports, and then there's system reports also. So if we select system reports and we go to, gotta find the right one. Custom reports, grading tab, and there's one is right here for letter grades report. Whoa, okay. There's a one that pops up. I'm trying to, was it the engine tab? There it is. Engine tab, low grades. Now I can search for the term I want. If I want just, depending on what you are, S1, if you just do S1 grades, or Q1, okay. You can do anybody who has, letter grades, F onlys or D's and F's, depending on what your policy is, or you can look at percentages, set your criteria here, and then submit. That'd be a common one athletic directors would run. But there's a number of places, and you can kind of see which one works for you. System reports, engine tab, low grades report gives you a good start. Okay. Okay, we have our 3 students again. We're back over here at the group functions menu. So search by grades and attendance, we can use that, okay? Search for grades or search for attendance, find some criteria that we want. Honestly, I use it to run that report, but these PSCB reports, go in there and we'll show you that a little bit later on. There's a lot of reports in there. Those were loaded for all schools last year, beginning of last year, I think, or probably could be maybe they're 2 years old now. But there's a lot of reports in there that are just handy to run, that you don't have to do a lot of these searching. The formula is made for you already. Search for perfect attendance. I would not do it that way. That's not the best way to use this. Doing an ADA, ADM report is probably the most common way for schools to do that. So I would not use that one. Enrollment summary. What that's going to do is give me an enrollment summary for just this grade level that I would have had selected. Better way of doing that. So if we're back here at the high school, let's go back to our start page. We're going to clear this whole selection. Right here is what you want, is this enrollment summary right here. So we go right over here to the left. It's under the functions menu. I select enrollment summary. And there it pops up. Now you might have to go to your first day of school here to get something to show up, okay? And select all active enrollments. But this is nice. you bring this up. Superintendents always want this sort of stuff. Hey, can I get the current enrollment? You can print this screen every month for him at a board meeting if that's what he wants, because it gives you a nice breakdown of grades, males, females, total, how many Asian, so on, if that's important to him. Look it over here. This is important for you. When we talk about clean data workshops and clean data, you want to pay attention to this, because if you have some that are unclassified, soon as you turn on vertical reporting, you're probably going to get, some errors, because everybody needs to have this filled in for every student. Otherwise, it gives an error. So that's nice. Nice report to run. Oh, yep, I got 1 or 2 here. I need to clean that up. And you can come and do that. So it gives us our numbers. Nice, quick way of looking at that, okay? And we can do that per school. Now, that makes me think of something else when I talk about clean data. We offer a course in clean data where we clean things up, and some people come every year, some people come every couple of years, depending on what it is, but you should go to one. If you ask the people in your school, have we ever been to a clean data, and they say, what is that? You probably need to register, okay? And you come there and we get all your data clean in PowerSchool. And the reason that's so important is PowerSchool is the start of it all, okay? Everything from PowerSchool is exported out through the nightly process, okay? Every night it's exported up into STARS, into SLEDs, into e-transcript. All of that data goes up. Nothing really comes back except the student number is going to come back. It'll go up. You enroll a new student in your school system, and it goes up to all these places that night. And then the next day, you'll have a student number, or hopefully the next day, might take 2 days, that data comes back into PowerSchool. Or I shouldn't say that data. The student number comes back to PowerSchool. But all the data went up there into that information. And that's what's nice. So if you have somebody in your building who has SLEDS access, and if you're an administrator, you have it. And when I say SLEDS, I mean the SLDS. If a student moves to your school from Washburn and they're sitting in your office going, yeah, I'm pretty sure I took Algebra 1 last year in Washburn. You could go, oh, okay. Well, you don't have to wait for that transcript to come. You can go to the SLDS and look there and say, oh, yes, you did take Algebra 1. Or you could say, right here it says a pre-algebra is what you took. Okay, so that's handy. And that's a whole nother topic, the SLDS. But right here, the important thing I want to stress is keeping your data clean in PowerSchool and making sure all the information's there, and follow good practices, with doing things, and you're going to be in great shape. Then there's not a problem. So think about that. Another thing to think about, right? I'm going to go back and grab my couple kids here, select by hand, and let's just go right there, update my selection, and we're back to that group functions menu. Okay, now I can mass enroll in a special program. I haven't seen a whole lot of people do this, but again, those larger schools might, because they might be grabbing 15, 20 kids that they need to put into, a program of sorts here, where, in your typical Class B school, you're going to go grab the onesies and twosies and do that, so, but you do what works for you. You can select them and do that. All right. Now, I selected group functions in the menu, and you see it came up and looks this way, right? Same thing. We've already went through your student screen, attendance change. These two right here, we did enrollment summary. You see what I'm saying? Our next group function is re-enroll in school. So you could have those students where you're going to search for them and re-enroll them in school. That is done, from our beginning page. We would search for those inactive students with that /. So with this one, let's just go back to that start page And what I'm talking about there is right here in the start for inactive students, it's a forward slash. Let's see if we have any of them. I don't know who in the world would be. I think these are active. No, I'm getting active students here. Yeah, I'm not finding my inactive ones, but I'd find that inactive student, and then I could come down to the bottom right and re-enroll in school. I could transfer out of school, would be the other thing we could do, and you see that happening, okay? If I had these students right here, these 6, and I wanted to transfer them out, I'd come right here, transfer out of school. I'd maybe make a comment here, moving to Arizona, transfer date. If it was today in the summertime, I would use the first day of school as the day they're transferring out, okay? That'd be the date. And then the exit code would be, you know, transferring out of district. And then I'd check this box because I have more than one, and I'd transfer them out. So now there's a whole nother session on enrolling and transferring students. And that gets me to the point where we want to talk about enrolling and transferring students in your school and what is best practice. Best practice is if you're in, say, Washburn, and you have an elementary and a high school secretary, talk amongst yourself how you want it done, and then say, we want all staff, or not all staff, all new students in school register with one secretary. They go to Angie to register for school. Everybody goes to Angie to register. Angie registers them. She becomes the enrollment expert, and she also has STARS access, and she can work with that and make sure everything's working right. Nice way of doing it. And sometimes schools do that. They're like, well, we don't do that. We have, they both, the elementary and the secondary secretary do that. Well, they do it differently. And sometimes those people don't talk very well, and there's problems. Better to have one person do it all. And I think schools that have done it, there's one secretary that says, yeah, I'll do that, and they become the expert in it. And the other secretary is doing cartwheels that she doesn't need to do it anymore. So you're not hurting anybody's feelings here, okay? So try to do that. Try to get it where you have one person, and it should be the secretary who's, you know, most of them are pretty detailed people. They do like, you know, all the T's crossed and the I's dotted. They want stuff nice. So, you know, find that person, and that person becomes an enrollment specialist, okay? And you'll, you know, develop those best practices on how we do things. Screen 2, let's get back here. Transfer out of school, export as using a template. Sometimes we have students, and it's this time of year, usually it's your tech person that's going to be doing that. Type of export, I need to do a student export, and you know, we need to do that DIBELS export. We need to get that to that vendor. Or it might be LifeTouch, right? Oh, LifeTouch is coming. They want an export. Well, that's probably been created for you already, and you could export it as a template. It's something you do once a year. There's a template for it. Kind of handy, okay? Sometimes, you know, some updates might need to be done to it, but using that template will save you some time. Now, sometimes we need to list students. You just want a list, a quick little list, okay? So with these students, I want a list, and I have this information that's already in there. I want their first name, last name, street, city, state, zip. I wanted all, this is a formula that was in there. You can see these symbols there. That puts it all in one line in a box. That's kind of nice. Or you could have something like this that's all would be there also with, you know, mailing street, mailing city, mailing state, so on. So it's two different ways of looking at it. This will put it all on one. This will put them each in a column. And what I could do is I come over here to this fields. Now you probably don't see this contact DATs. That's something else that we use with contacts. But right here, fields, I'm going to select the field. And this is where I could go ahead and select the field that I maybe want. Maybe I want father's name. What is the field for it? And oh, there it is, father. So I could add that in. You know what I'm saying? So you could search for those sort of things and add them in, or we can just scroll down and look for them. You know, depending on what you want to do, we can do a lunch balance and so on. So you see the menu. I mean, it's fairly long. Maybe I want their date of birth, DOB. Okay, so I have this information there, right? I can give it a title. And now I can go ahead. I don't have these columns filled in. Right here I do, but I could give each one of these columns, you know, I could call this one city and so on, zip code and whatever. I submit that, and that's the information I get. Okay, you see where the two different ways that I showed you where the address was entered here versus this way. Sometimes we want them all in different columns. Sometimes it doesn't make a difference. So you're going to, you know, vary that just a little bit. Here was father's name. Father's name wasn't entered for these other ones. And this is their date of birth. So we can come up here and sort for different things too. I could say, well, I want to sort for 58201. See how it's bringing that stuff down? It's filtering for me. That's handy, right? Gets rid of the, you know, the ones that don't meet the match. So we can start doing that. So maybe you're looking for, I want to find all kids that live in Grand Forks. Oh, here we go. We can start filtering that information. So, or, you know, sometimes we can export that out as a file and then work with that data in Excel, or we can just copy the data. And it's copied that information. We can paste it wherever we want then. So that's kind of handy. If I go back to the group functions, the next thing I can do is do a quick export. This is kind of handy too, because sometimes we know, hey, I'm going to be working with this data in Excel. That's the plan. First name, last name, gender, date of birth, grade level. You know, this is the information that I have. This is what I want to export. Get rid of that. Okay. How do I know what the field names are? I come down here and I do fields. Okay. And this is where I can search and add them. You know, I can do, you know, if I want to know who, you know, maybe a medical alert is, I can put that in and so on. So what bus route are they on? I'll add those fields. And then, Holly, I don't know if I spoke with you, you know, when we did contacts, I found this contacts DAT plugin and I put that in. If I haven't spoke with you yet about that, that thing's beautiful. That really works nice. With creating fields on, like when we had spoke, well, how do I get mother's phone number out of contacts? This will do it, and I can show you how to do that. So that's a topic for another time. If there's somebody else on that we did contacts with last spring, real nice. Okay. And when you see the formula for it, you'll know why it's difficult to come up with by hand. This thing builds the formula. Okay. So I have my export fields in. Now I can go ahead and export that data. That exported for my computer. I know that went to my downloads folder. Okay. So I would bring up Excel. Right there it is. I'd go open, browse for it. downloads folder, come on. And here's the thing that sometimes people don't get. They're going, oh, it's not there. What's the deal? Come down here to the bottom right. It's looking right now at only Excel files. Well, it's not an Excel file. I need to go to all files. Ah, there it is. Student export that I just did. Okay. And now that comes up and I can select open and just go next through that and finish. And comes up and there's my data. So I could highlight it over here in the top left, double click one of those lines, and then it auto corrects for the column width. And there's the information I wanted. Now, if this would be your school and you're in the school year, you'd be going, uh-oh, we got a problem. I had 2 kids without a state student number. That'd be an issue, okay? And you'd need to get into STARS and check that out. So you can see where that exporting data can be kind of nice. Sometimes schools like to do, we do a mailing list. We create that for, whatever reason. There you go. You'd export it out. It's already in Excel. You could do the nice little column headers and send it out. Done. Okay. Don't need to save that. Let's go back to our start page. We're back here to our group functions. We did the quick export. Build email lists. We need to send out the emails to, whoever, students. So if all these students had an email, which they do, State of North Dakota gives them one, right? K-12, they should have it in there if you're communicating that way. Parents' emails, and then the parent portal email, that comes up. We select it and we say, build the list. There it is. Now I can go ahead and highlight this. It already is. I can copy it and I'll paste it in the BCC one, the blind carbon copy of the email I'm sending out. The reason I do that is not every parent is going to be able to see the email address of the other parents. Then a little bit of a privacy thing there. But there's the handy part of having student emails in there. And it's really one of those things as simple as this is the way we communicate in school. You need to look at your email and you need to look for whether it be parents or students. And if some go, well, I don't check email, then they say, well, you're going to be out of the loop then because that's the way we communicate. It's really kind of that simple. Students are expected to check their email. There's no reason not to, right? What time is the bus leaving? It was sent to your email. Secretary sent it out every day. It's in that daily bulletin, whatever. Oh, I didn't know. Well, it's your responsibility to check your email. So, nice way to send that out. Back to the start page. And we're on to the next one. Fee functions. Some schools use fees, but very few. Health screening page, you can take a look at that. We don't really encourage you to do that. We have a state health department that keeps all those records already. Why put it in your system? In some ways, you're creating work for yourself because the State Department already has that in your county health nurse. So why do you have to keep track of who got their polio shot? They're doing it, okay? ID and password assignment, we can select that. Let's say we had these 6 kids coming to school and I need to create an ID and a password for them. So I'm going to make sure that I have this box checked. We surely don't want to do it for all the students again. For the selected 6 students, don't overwrite an existing one if they have one there. And then you can set what you want done as far as a username and password. That can work nice, but I really, I didn't do this because as a principal, you're meeting with those students anyway, right? They're coming in, they're sitting down, you're talking about their schedule for the new school year. Angela's sitting down with me right now and we're going through her schedule. And one of the first things I'm going to do is say, Angela, I gave you the Power School address. And I check this box to make sure it's active. and I'd say, what do you want your username to be? She's going to, think a minute. She's going to give it to me. I'm going to say, I'm going to put your password in as password. And the first time you log in, you're going to be asked to change it. And then you change it to what you want it to be. And life's going to be simple. Okay. There's none of this, creating funky passwords and all that stuff. It's done. But maybe your school does that, whatever. Okay, as long as you have a process, that's what's good. So that's how we can mass do it if we're doing that. LDAP, if your school's using that, there that is. Mass create family links. This maybe was a little bit more important, I think, before, for some schools, if they were doing that, they could create those. I really would encourage you to use contacts and move that route. That's the future. Okay. Student field value. Let's see. Yeah. Student field value. This is one you want to learn to use because it's really handy. So the POD teacher gave out the civics test, let's say, and he had 6 students that didn't pass in the senior class. They retook the test today and they passed. Celebration time. So I selected my 6 students by hand, right? I have them there, and I'm going to come over here. I'm going to take my group functions menu, and I'm going to go to student field value. Okay, the field I want to change now is the civics test. We know that what's important there is just the date, but geez, what is the name of that civics test? I begin to type it in. Right there it is. You wouldn't have remembered that, right? So there that field is. And I select down here. PowerSchool knows it needs to be a date. So I go ahead and I select that and I say, yep, today's the date. And I submit that. It's saying they took it here, Normally this would be blank because they hadn't taken it, but there's some data in there because this is our test site. Okay, so it'd be blank here, and I'd go ahead and submit that. And done. Okay, they have that information in. And we can do that for a number of things that we'd want to do, that student field value, depending on what it is. Let's say those kids would be like, oh man, I selected all the kids. I didn't put a gender in for them. You go here to field, select gender. There it is. My new field that I want them to be is male, or right there for M, and submit. Okay, so different things, you'll apply it to your situation. But that's a handy one to change a group of students, the information. We would do that also. These 6 kids now, they've decided to go out for ice fishing. There's the field I want. I begin to type it in. I've done this before, so I knew the field. Ice fish equals, if I want that box checked on that activity for them, it's a number 1, okay? Just about any box you want checked in PowerSchool, it's going to equal number 1. Ice fishing, number 1, they're now part of the ice fishing team. I submit that. The old ice fishing, they weren't part of it. Now they are. Submit. Okay. Now if I search for that ice fishing team, I'd have 6 more members on there. Kind of handy, right? That's nice. Student field value. Okay. Graduation. This part right here, you're not going to use that anymore. That's old school stuff. We don't use that because we have eTranscript, which is much better, much better, more powerful. It has their graduation plan in there. It has their college scholarship requirements in there. It has all their historical grades in eTranscript. Much better. The kids are able to send their transcript to a college. They don't need to come into you and go, Katie, could you send my transcript to BSC? And next week they come in and ask to have it sent to Williston, and the week after they decided to go to UND. You know, there's none of that. They can do it all themselves. So if you haven't been to any transcript training, you want to get to there too. And that's going to make your life easier too by getting involved with that. So we don't use any of these right here. You can play with them if you want, but it's not important, okay? Because there's e-transcript. Mass print student screen, this would be a plug-in that would be used. Some schools might have it, some don't. Right here, print mailing labels. So if I select that, I have my 6 students selected. And this is a common one we're seeing right now, okay, is to print the lunch barcode. Number of schools had that where the kids would come in on a keypad and they'd all touch the keypad for their lunch number. Now the lunch supervisor there, some of them have bought scanners and they're gonna scan the barcodes, lunch barcodes for each kid. So I could print those for the 6. More than likely I'd do it by grade or whatever you're gonna do in school, or by alphabet, all the kids, whatever. But you could do that, you print that. Or you could say, nope, I need my mailing label here to the mother or to the family of is a common one that you could use. And you'd print mailing labels, okay? So handy there to print those mailing labels. You could print a report. We see that one quite a bit. You're coming up here, and there's a variety of reports in PowerSchool. These would be a lot of them that you would have created over time or for whatever reason. And this is our test site, so you're seeing a whole boatload of them here. Now, in your school, sometimes schools have, I see the report card ones, and we always encourage schools to go paperless and not print report cards. Parents can print them themselves, and we have something Lenore and I are going to show you guys here in a little bit that is just really sweet that came out this year. It's a plugin that we're going to get into all your sites where, yeah, it'll print probably a report card that's nicer than the one you're printing right now if you're still doing that. But the idea is here, I got off track. If you're not using report cards anymore, get rid of it. Delete the stuff. Only use what or I should say, have reports here that you're using instead of scrolling through a bunch of junk to find the one you want. Clean it up a little bit. But that's where you could print reports. Let's see. Scheduling, invalid request, mass enroll, or an invalid request would be something you'd use as part of scheduler. Mass enroll is something you're going to probably use right now, some of you, and this is what I'm going to be visiting with that secretary about later on, is she's never scheduled students, and she'll be doing it in the high school. So let's say I have my 6 students selected right now, right? I'm back. Let's go back here. You could do by grade. All 9th graders are taking physical science, and you know where you want to mass enroll them and so on. You're going through. But I have these 6. These are my 6 kids that are going to take a class. So I'm going to come down here to group functions. I've selected them. I scroll down. I say mass enroll. I'm going to mass enroll them in Robert Bauman's class. Let's see what his classes are here. He's got an accounting class, first hour. That's the one I want to put him in. So I'd go ahead and select that class. Now, we're going to stop here and talk about something. Right now, this entry date isn't so important. I could leave that as 8/6, so it won't be a problem. It's going to enroll them in the first day of class. But here's what happens, and here's where mistakes are made when school is started. So school started, let's say your school's starting on 8/20, okay? And 8/22, this student comes in, or Kyle, let's say, comes in, or this group of students comes in and says, we decided we don't want to take ag or whatever, we want to take accounting. This date becomes important. So I would recommend to you, if they come, your school started on 8:10 or 8:20, they come in and they drop a class on 8:22 and add a class, drop them on 8:20 and enroll them in the new class on 8:20. Don't do this. Oh, I dropped them, on this date and I enrolled them, because really, is it that important that you show that they were in an ag class for 2 days? It just creates kind of a mess. So they enrolled on 8:20, drop them on 8:20, enroll in the new ones on 8:20. Now that's different if we're sitting here in November, okay? Then that's a little bit different. But for that first week of school, it can be a problem. Where we see other problems is if the enrollment is after or I should say before the class started, or they enroll them on it afterwards, where this date, you want the dates to match up, because you're going to have attendance problems too. If they, let's say a student didn't have a 3rd hour class and you bring them in and you're going to enroll them in accounting 3rd hour, 5 days into school. You didn't have a class in there before. Now you enter them 5 days into school. What's going to happen is later on in the school year, the attendance secretary is going to come and go, we got a problem. It isn't jiving with, this group of students here, their attendance. It's not right. Their average or ADA and stuff. So you always have to think about the date when you're enrolling students. Okay. That's important. So you're going to come up here, you're going to edit that date, and then you're going to go enroll students. And now they're enrolled in that class. Now, if this same group of students is taking, say, a 2nd semester class, then I can use the currently selected 6 students to, or I'm going to make them the student selection there. You have a number of options there, okay? And now I can enroll them in some other classes, okay? So depends on what you want to do. Will it get me back to that screen? Depending on what you want to do, you will select these options, okay? Make them the current selection, drop them from the class, whatever it might be, okay? Same thing with those, let's say this group of students right here, they're the ones that I want to drop. They decided to drop this class and take a different class. Then I could drop them from the class, and I'm going to be concerned about this date again, okay? Clear attendance on and after exit date. You want things to be neat and clean, or you're going to have problems. All right? So dates are important always. So we have mass enroll. If you have summer school, you're going to be concerned about this a little bit. Next school indicator, that's more an end of year type thing. What that would be is these 6 students, the next school, let's say you're in a 6th grade, 7th grade goes to high school, so their next school is going to be the high school, okay? Not really that critical. When we get to the end of year process, that's where, that will all be changed and cleaned up and corrected. Some people don't worry about that when they're registering students and so on. Student schedule report, prints a matrix of it. We can show what that looks like. You get some options here on how you want to print it. It just kind of depends. Some have a report they use and so on. So it's an option. You can fool around with it and see if it's something that works for you. Let's see, where was I at? Summer school indicator, that's kind of like this next school indicator. Save stored searches, we talked about that already, or selection, we talked a little bit about that. We can search for attachments that we have, and I'll talk about that with students in a little bit. And then search for or by GPA. So we can go ahead, sometimes we need to know information here. You can search for those students and, with a GPA greater than, say, 3.7, you want that group of students, okay? There's other ways of doing that too with our reports over here. back to group functions. Haven't done a whole lot with this validation stuff down here. You can play with it a little bit, but I would say most really aren't going to use those reports. You can check for, some different things. I don't really do a lot and never have, so I don't know how much you want to worry about that. If you get to a clean data class, we might jump into some of those, but for the most part, again, not really used. Okay. Hey, we're at 10 o'clock. We've been going for a while. Let's go ahead and take like a 5-10 minute break, get up and stretch a little bit. We'll come back at how about 10:05 gives us about 7 minutes. We'll see what we have back then, and we'll start again, and that we'll start going over our left-hand column, which is another important area. Okay, so let's go ahead, get up and stretch a little bit, and come back at 10:05. How we doing? We have everybody back? I'll maybe go ahead and get started, and then we can, pick up where we're at. Okay. What I want to do now is take a look at the left-hand side of our screen. And I probably should note, I sent you all a document on a Power School New Administrator Guide. You should have that. That you can use as a good, helpful tool. If you've been trying to follow along in there, that hasn't worked. I've been trying to follow some sequence along more or less with this page, and that doesn't necessarily follow the book at all. Okay, but that manual, you can take a look at that. It's got the table of contents. If you run into an issue, it's more or less there that you could say, Glenn and Lenora, they talked about that. What in the world was it again? Where is it at? And you can take a look at the guide, and that'll be of some help to you, okay? But I like following this sequence on the page. It kind of helps that way. So with our student, we're on the start page again. We have our 6 students selected. Let's take a look at our left-hand column. A lot of times when tickets are submitted, we'll say, okay, in the left-hand column, under functions, there's attendance. That's what we'll do. And we'll see that in there. Yes.
You'll need to do share your screen again.
Whoops. Okay. Get that taken care of. Thank you, Lenora. Okay, so we have that left-hand screen attendance over here, and there's some options there for us. Okay, now I'm wondering if that's attendance. I need to select my student here. Let's grab one. With the students selected, there we go. So right now I have access accounts. Oh, let's go up to the top. Quick lookup screen. Remember when we talked about a default? When you open up a student, it'll go to a default at the beginning. We can set that up here. Okay, this is what you're going to get. Okay, and depending on what your school is, remember we have all of this information there. Yours is going to look just a little bit different. And then we have our tabs for quick lookup, standards, grades, and so on. Okay, quick lookup screen. From the group functions menu, remember you could print a report. Well, you can also print a report for that individual student. Okay, we can switch students. I want to go to a different student. I could type in the name here and it would go to another student. Or let's say I have my student selection and I'm working with these 6. I can, bring that up, or maybe I have 24 or whatever I'm working with. This list is right here and I can change that. If I'm just doing one by one, I can just go ahead and select, the little VCR button here, and it'll go to the next student and so on. Sometimes that's...
Glenn, you may try to make your screen a little bigger.
Make my screen a little bigger. Okay, let's do this. How's that?
Yep, better.
Okay, great. Okay, so I can switch students that way. Now I go down here under information. We have access accounts. Remember I spoke about that already. Okay, here's the student information, parent information, so on. We can auto assign those just for a single student right here. Parent access accounts. I can see here there's 2 of them. So I could select on those. That's going to, or select these names. That's going to open them up too, and I can see their information, but I'm going to do that a little bit later here down the line. Addresses. I can see the address for the students here. Now remember, when we talk about addresses, this is the student's address. Not mom and dad's address or anything like that. This is the student's address right here. So I could enter this in here, and let's say you entered it in, and oh, yep, that address is the mailing address also. You can just copy that down and now submit. Attachments, right now our attachment server isn't working unless it was fixed last night or something, but attachments are nice. I love them. I think they're great. I think they save a lot of paperwork, and they really make things good. Parent brings in a birth certificate and you scan it. It's sent as a PDF right now. I mean, it's so easy now with copy machines. It's scanned to your file, PDF. You go over here and you say, yep, I have it. I got it in my email from the copy machine. I put it in downloads. I go and I add that. The drawer slides out. I find it on my computer someplace and I add it as PDF, and it's here for, from K through 12. If there's a court order of some kind or whatever, you scan it to, as a PDF and you attach it. Another common one is Center for Distance Ed sends a completion notice. Holly passed the class with an A, and there's a little certificate there. A, 100%. You go ahead, scan it, throw it in as an attachment, enter it then in the historical grades, and you're in good shape. You see how you can store that stuff? It isn't all, I'll make a copy for the vault, and you go ahead and you're making all these paper copies. You're not doing that, okay? And then when the student graduates, you throw it all in the garbage, and you got this big garbage can full of stuff that really, was not needed. So nice way of doing things right here. Attachments or contacts, I select that. Now this right here is an add-on, that's a plugin. But right here, this is something that we've really went through. Mandan's done contacts, and I don't know what other schools we have that are on today. But contacts really, I think, are the future doing things because they really give us some nice flexibility and some things. So looking at this student's contacts, it's saying Morgan is the mother and Jared is the father. If I want more information on Morgan, so Morgan, this information really isn't complete here. So I bring Morgan up. Morgan's a contact for this student, right? And it's the mother. So I could, fill that out. I could say she's the female. She works at EduTech. She's an active one. I want to expand all of these. I could create a web account. Now, this is what's so nice. They come in to register. Mom's there at the counter. You make her a contact, okay? And you say, okay, Mom, you're able to check your children's grades here at school using PowerSchool. And she's going, oh, perfect. That'd be nice. What do you want your username to be? She says, can it just be Mom1? Yep, you bet, no problem. You type it in for her and you say, I'm going to give you a password because the first time you log in, you're going to be asked to change it. She says, nice, okay. And she gives an email of mom1@.com and you submit that. Now, she knows what her username and password is when she leaves the office. She has the web address. She could even type it into her, download the app from the phone or whatever and do it that way too, or just do a web page on the phone. She's got that. You come down here and you say, oh, you have Annika there, or Michaela, that's your daughter. We want to give you data access. So we go right here and we give her data access. Now she's got data access for that student, but you're saying, you know what? There was she had a couple other children. We better get them added. So we come over here and let's just say, maybe there's some Andersons. We'll try to, yeah, here we go. Yep, here's the other kids right here. She's the mother to them in school. And we want to give her data access too. Submit. There it is. Okay. Now we could say, we slide that pencil out. We say, yep, Mom has custody. The kids live with her. Mom's able to pick them up from school and they do receive mail. And I submit that. All the way across. Look how nice that looks, huh? Okay. So that's done. Phone numbers. We come down here. We add a phone number to Mom. Here's what's nice right here. Okay. So you come here, Mobile phone, that used to have to be a custom field. It's not in contacts. Mobile work is there, and then work phone is there. So if I want a mobile phone for mom, and this is what we're finding where some schools with their alert system, so I say 701, whoops, I'm having a little problem there. That's the mobile phone number, and they want this checked. They want this SMSS checked here for texting. Submit, done. Okay, and mom also gave me another phone number. She wanted her mobile work added, and that's there we go. That phone also takes text messages. It's there, and there we are. Well, it looks like my number's bad there, okay, but good enough for right now. Priority. This is the first, things are entered in priority. This is the first number that's called, okay? This is the second one that's called, so on. Same thing with email addresses. I can add email addresses. So I already know this email address up here. I'm just gonna go ahead and copy that. I come down here, add an email, current, paste that in. Primary, you can check it, but again, primary, if there was 3 emails there and primary was the third one on the list, it isn't the primary one. The first one is always the primary one. And I submit that. Now I have some nice information there for this contact, okay? And looks good, you know, so that's how contacts work. So we go back, if I was to refresh this page now, this is gonna look a little different. There it comes up. Look at, there's my mobile phone number, and you're seeing, I'm seeing the first one. Okay. How come that didn't come through for my gal here? Have to look at that. But Morgan's, their information is complete. And when we get that all into school, our contacts are going to look nice. So I better move on off of contacts, or we can spend a whole day on that, or a couple hours at least. Customer screen or custom screens right here. Really, we're trying to move away from some custom screens because we used to see a lot of custom screens for this. I wonder if it's here. New student enrollment. Yeah, this is, and sometimes some schools created custom fields for information that's already in PowerSchool, and then they're saying, well, it doesn't flow. Well, it won't because it's a custom field, and that's what we see when we see father's cell phone. Okay, that's not going to flow into contacts because that's a custom screen. And the only place it was available was in the custom screen. And that's the problem. With contacts, your teachers have that now. There's a tab when they go under demographics for their students. They're going to select contacts. Boom, it's all there for them to see. So you might enter all this stuff in here, father's cell phone, mother's cell phone. Yeah, that's great, but nobody else can see it. That's the downside, okay? But there's a number of custom screens that are nice, you know, that you might need. You know, it might be medical alerts and things like that. We need a printout of all the students that have medical alerts or a report or a custom screen. We enter that in. Yeah, you might have it, you know, there might be some reason for it. But we try to move away from that, especially on the contact side of things. Let's get back to our start screen here. Select our student again. There's probably a quicker way of doing what I just did, but that's the way I did it, okay? Custom screens, demographics. So we go to a student's demographics. So when you enroll a student in school, you're going to enroll them in school, and then you're going to come to the demographics screen. And you're going to complete the registration for them. In that you're going to give them an address here, and then you're going to do that copy down if it needs to be, or you're going to put their mailing address in. Home phone, I always try to say, this is the student's home phone. And I wish there'd be a field for student's cell phone because they all have one now. And you could think of that as being, well, the home phone is the student's cell phone. Whatever you decide, you'd come up with some rules. And that brings me to another subject here, rules. Schools want to have what I call best practices, especially you get a Mandan, Williston size where you definitely have multiple schools, multiple secretaries, and you want to make sure everybody's doing things the same way, okay? And you want to have rules for that, that when we type in an address and it's Avenue, are we typing out Avenue or is it always going to be AVE? That's the rule, you know? Angela Anderson, how come there's not a middle name? We always put in a middle name. We see schools doing things differently here too. Oh, I only put in an address. Oh, there was a middle name, but I didn't put it in. No, the best thing to do is put in the full middle name, because that's going to help you in stars too. Oh, we had an Angelica Anderson at Washburn too. Well, is it the same person or not? More information is better. Okay, so you get the idea. Develop and establish rules or best practices, huh? Down here, if you use area and neighborhood, that is something you can fill out. I don't know how many schools do that. Date of birth obviously is important, needs to be filled out. Here's the big ones that get people into trouble with enrolling students in school. They forget to fill out ethnicity, race, and you're scheduling ethnicity down here and reporting an ethnicity. This has to be filled out or you're going to get an error, okay? And that's a common one. And remember, we could see that under unclassified in that enrollment summary. Remember at the beginning of the class we talked about that? We could see that here and we go, oh boy, I missed somebody. I want to get that filled in. If we're not using contacts and we haven't moved to that, then we fill information out here, okay? And we just do it there. Sometimes, they enter the phone number they have, whatever it might be. We fill out the gender. Grade level was filled out when you enrolled the student. Graduation year, you could fill that out if you want. Guardianship, I don't know if too many schools are going to fill that out. Guardian email, a lot of them are going to want that filled out, because that's the one that if you're using, like, say, an alert system, it'll look at this field, okay? I really wish it was different. In my world, they shouldn't have guardian email. They should have mom's email and dad's email. That's in contacts already, okay? So that's what it should be. This whole guardian thing messes things up, but nobody's asked me. So that's my thoughts on that one. Then we have, mother's information here again. And then our social security number, we never enter those into PowerSchool, okay? And student number, depending on how you enrolled the student, you could just let it auto-generate. That's obviously the easiest, but some schools have, no, we put the graduation year and then some other thing, and that works until the student's retained, and then you always go, well, everybody with the, 2020, where it starts with 2020, but except for Jim Bob and Billy, they're different, so whatever. You do what works for you and what you've done. Okay, and then we could submit that. Emergency medical, right along here. Again, that contact information, if you're using contacts, just do that. But this stuff's important right here. Doctor, hospital, dentist, special medical stuff. Maybe the student has asthma. We want to check that. What are some allergy notes? You heard me talk about this immunization already. It's not really your job to keep track of it. Why do it? Medical alert text, right here we go, allergic to peanuts. So, and then you could submit that and keep that updated. And we can see those alerts up here. You see that? There's a discipline alert. We got a balance alert, birthday, some other alerts. Here's the medical one. So if I type that, oh, there I see that. And that shows up on the teacher side too. That's important. There should be no reason. And sometimes that needs to be refreshed with teachers. They forget, how it is. You look at something all the time, you forget to look up here, but it's their job to know that information. It's not just teaching in the classroom. There's other responsibilities. They need to look up here and see what the student, really, if this was a bad case, it probably would have been covered in that IEP meeting also, or the 504 meeting, to cover those issues. Okay, so we have that taken care of. We have family, what family members are there. Again, It can be done here and can be done in contacts. So I kind of see this one possibly going by the wayside maybe in the future, maybe not. Health. There we go. All that information there. You heard me visit about that. That's there if you're doing it. Modify info. Here's where we're going to see that locker number, locker combo. That's probably our most common one we see here. Family rep. Each school might have a family rep where, hey, when we send mailings home to families, we give it to, say, the youngest child in school. So the youngest child is going to have this box checked. And how are we going to, check that? We could do that student field value if we want. We can select all the youngest kids in school that just arrived at registration or whatever. We can do a mass film that way, or we can just do it when that family comes in registers. You can say, oh, this is the youngest one. And you have your notes there of things that you need to do. Hey, when I enroll a new student, here's the steps. You have your little Bible there, and you do that, okay? We look down here, we just see some of that information. We've seen this on Web Access Allow. That, I wonder if, Lenora, that's got to be part of a custom page here, I think, an insert. That isn't typically there, is it?
No, I don't.
I don't think so. Part of test one, you see a lot of test stuff that's on here. So you won't see exactly the same thing sometimes as what you would see in your school. But you're going to see the district entry date, when they came into school and so on. So modify info. You don't do a whole lot there, but it's neat to look at it and see what's there for lockers and so on. Depending on your role in school, this other info page, you might never go to it. If you're working with if you're the homeless liaison, you're going to be here, okay? You're going to come here. If you're the English second language person, you're going to come here, okay? But most of the time, people don't. Here's where you're going to put that student email. That's nice. Parents, it's either going to be here or it's going to be in contacts. Photos are nice. People like them in school. Kids. It's really handy when the the substitute teacher comes in, right? And teachers have it all laid out, and they log in a substitute teacher, and they say, hey, Katie, I got a seating chart here, and you're in the wrong spot. Let's get over there. Or Katie's gone. I don't see anybody who looks like that. Okay. State, province, probably the big thing that people are going to use here is the state ID number. There's that 10-digit number. So when you need to look for that, it's right here under state, province. And again, depending on what your role is in the school, you might do something with these flags or these tabs, I should say. But most of the time, you don't. When I was high school principal, I didn't really do anything here with this. Once in a while, I needed a student number, but for the most part, my responsibilities weren't dealing with this stuff. Somebody else was. Now, legal name, you really don't need to do anything here unless there's a legal name change of some sort. Otherwise, just leave it blank because you've entered it up over here in demographics, and that's good enough. So it's really only when there's a change of some kind that you need to come in here, okay? Same with the legal gender, okay? Transportation, not really used a whole lot. This is where you could enter this information, but we don't see too many schools doing that at all with the transportation part. Attendance. You're coming over here. Now this is nice. So this is one of the students that went, let's see, where are we at? On Tuesday, this was one of my students. We had another new admin class. This student went to an ice fishing tournament that day, extracurricular, okay? Let's say that that wasn't right. I just found out now. I gave the coach a little lecture about that, but the student actually never went on the trip. So there was a change that needed to be made. So I probably should have explained what I did there, huh? In case I did that too fast. Attendance. Come on, let's get back. So what I did right there is right up here at the top, it's in bold blue letters. I select that for the week. Now I can see the week's attendance, right? And there he was, marked absent with that extracurricular activity, but really he wasn't. He never went on the trip. He was home sick instead. So I need to change that. I need to go here. And what I'm doing is I'm just clicking in the box, okay, selecting the box. And now he was actually absent instead of extracurriculars, and I submit that. So your attendance people, they work in this all the time. They're working, with those codes and changing things or adding things, whatever it might be. So that's attendance. I can go there and sometimes, I would do this. You know who your students are in a school system that have attendance problems. Usually runs in families, and they're there. So there's certain kids that I know, you see them in the hallway and it kind of jogs your memory. I better go back and take a look at this kid. And I'd usually bring up this screen right here and see how much, oh man, he's missed a lot. And then check with the secretary, how come, why did Angelica miss so much, last week or whatever? Check with her. So that's one way you can use that screen or change things and so on. Daily attendance, you can take a look at this. It's going to give you some percentages. When we talked about absences and so on with students, and here you can kind of get a quick look at what this student's doing and how things are going, okay? What's nice here is you can see it here. Also, you can check the years. There's years that they've been there. And that makes me think too, it comes up every once in a while, where the SLDS again is nice. Angela came to us from Mandan. We're sitting down and I'm having the meeting with Angela and her parents about her attendance problems. And she says, we never had this problem in Mandan before. And well, if you in an SLDS, you can look and you could say, well, it looks like you did, or it looks like you never, So you can kind of see, well, she did. She had great attendance in Mandan. What's the problem? What's changed now and so on. So kind of nice. You get that historical data. Okay, so attendance counselor dashboard. This one's nice for counselors. They can bring this up and you can set their access. Remember, they don't need administrative access. You can set them up with counselor access and they can see this page, okay? And they come up, they can see the quick lookup schedule. If there's grades in there, they can see how their students performing. What's their cumulative information? They need to know that, right? They're working on different things, grad plans for students, what's going to work for college. And that's where this historical grades comes in, because now that counselor's sitting down with the students and going, you're telling me you want to go to Wahpeton for diesel mech. Let's take a look. Yeah, you have all the required classes to get into Wahpeton. You might want to think about this, that, and the other thing. Kind of nice, okay? They can see all this information and have that for the students. So remember the days back in the day, you'd print off, you'd have all these 3-ring binders of students and what their historical grades were. What a mess. Now you just have login in your laptop, sit down, you take a look at it. You're both sitting beside each other, or now you're 6 feet apart looking at it. So, but it's handy, okay? Test scores, if you're putting them in, ACT and so on. Net access, I wouldn't worry a whole lot about that, because if mom and dad are logging in on a mobile phone to check grades, it's not going to show up here anyway. So, it's not really accurate. All enrollments, this would be what the student, all their enrollments in classes. That along with historical grades is nice, Do you have your 3 maths or not? You're looking at things. Nice screen for a counselor to use. Cumulative info, okay, that's exactly what it is. You're going to see that GPA and stuff. Enter attendance. We can enter attendance for Angelica for, this week. You see it's just bringing up that screen that we've seen before, right? So that's there. Graduation plan, these 3, we're not going to even talk about them because you're supposed to be using e-transcript, right? And that's real handy. Historical grades, you'll find yourself going in here quite a bit too, okay? It's a nice thing to do. You can see what a student had for grades in the past. And if you get a new student that comes in, depending on if they've done a whole grade or not before, if you have, let's say it's a 10th grade student and you have the 9th grade that you need to put in for them, you're probably going to come here and select multiple new entries. And you're going to say the school name is, you know, we're going to go ahead and change it. They're enrolling in Mandan School, but they came from Washburn. So the school they earned the credit was from Washburn. The school year was, you're going to put in the school year they did it, got it. So last year would have been the 1920 school year. Historic grade level would have been 9. And you could put in the course name. Really what's important here is that state course code down here. So I wouldn't worry so much about this course information. This, if it matches up with the course you have in your school, you could do that, but state course code usually works the best. And a lot of school secretaries have that sheet right beside them right there. They're going to enter that. This is something as a principal I didn't do neither, because my secretary was much better at it, and I would tend to miss things like GPA points or something, you know. So it was one of those deals. We knew our roles and who was good at what, and she was the one that entered that. And, you know, you have a master's degree. Your job isn't to be doing data entry. Your job is to run the school, not put data in. Okay, so you could go ahead. If it's a S1 grade, you're going to go ahead and put the grade in. You're going to put the GPA points in. You put the percentage in, and then you'll say earn credit of, usually it's going to be 0.5, you know, for S1, 0.5 for S2. If it's a year-long class, you can put it in. Depends on what you're going to do there, okay? You're going to set these flags to what they mean, you know, and, you know, if it's Phi Ed, some schools aren't going to count that in GPA, so you're going to exclude that. And you're going to do that, state course code. You really don't need to enter these in unless it's a dual credit class, and you want to enter that, but a 9th grader won't have that. And now you go to the next class and you enter that in, and now the next one, and you can enter like a whole year in there. And then at the end, submit that. That's really a time saver. Or maybe it's just one. You just received notice from the ND Center for Distance Ed. For this year, this summer, they took the class. So it would be for the 2020 school year. If it's done in the summer, it's going to be an S1 store code. The historical grade for this student, they said she was a 10th grader. Up here she's 9th, so, well, whatever. For my example, it's good enough. Course name was Equine Science. Okay, don't need a teacher's name, isn't important anyway. Grade is an A, GPA points. This is the common one that's forgotten till GPAs don't match or work out right. Percent was 98%. And then down here, that earned credit. Earned credit was 5, potential or 0.5. Potential credit is 0.5. Potential means potentially she could have earned half a credit. Earned credit is she earned it. She got it. So it's there. Okay. Yep, it all counts in GPA calculation, class rank, honor roll, graduation calculation. Yeah, we want it to display on a transcript. And now what is that state course code? I have it right there. If not, I go to the Center for Distance Ed. They have them all listed there. And I enter that state course code in and submit. Now, look at that. There it is. Looks pretty good. S1 grade. Okay. So you see how easy that can be. It's nice and accurate. For a single entry, then you have multiple entries. Key there, what we see with some schools is they might have taken this class during a study hall and they put it in as, no, they took the class and they just put, say, Mandan High School down here. Well, now, who issued the credit? Was it Mandan or the Center for Distance Ed? Center for Distance Ed did, right? So you'd want that on that transcript, and that'll show in e-transcript also. So historical grades, okay? Important that they're accurate. Like I said, earn credit, and then these right here, that grade, GPA points, that's the common one that's forgotten, percent and earned credit, and that state course code. All right, little history down here. Right here, if you're ever wondering, sometimes this comes up. What? I didn't think he earned an A in that class, or Angelica earned an A. Come down here and go, well, it was new. User 4608 entered that grade. That was me. So if the teacher thought I gave that kid a D, how come that's entered that way? Well, user 4608 has some explaining to do. Okay, honor roll, we go ahead, we take a look at that. This student hasn't made the honor roll, or there'd be a list of it there. Okay, report card right here. This, I should go to my girl who has some grades. This is what we were talking about adding to your guys' sites. And it will show up the same way on the parents. When the parent logs in or the student logs in, there'll be a field over here that says report card. You'd select report card, and this is the report card that would pop up for the student, okay? And that would be, you know, obviously there isn't any class, or she doesn't have any grades right now in here, but look how nice that would be, right? That looks nicer than a lot of schools, I'm telling you. You know, they have the information there, and you can go in and set this too. Later on, I'm sure we're going to be sending out some instructions on how you can set this up in your school. For those schools that you want to go paperless, beautiful. You send out a little note at the end of semester 1, and you go, you know, I hope you all have a Merry Christmas. We had a great first semester, blah, blah, blah. It's going on. Remember to log into PowerSchool and print a report card. You can do that by selecting a report card on the left, and they're going to get something like this that pops up on their screen, and they go print. Done. Okay.
Jack asked about going into every school site and checking the report number.
Say that again.
Jack asked if you would possibly go in and add this to every school site in the state.
Yes. Yep, exactly. Yeah, we'd add it in, and then there's some setup that's involved, because each, like you can see here, you'd select, if you're not doing Q1, Q2, S1, if you're just S1, you just put an S1 in there, or you might have something like a T1 equals E1 plus S1. So you can set that up for each school for the fields to show and the comments and so on. But how nice, think about that as being a time saver for you. We print out 9th grade report cards and things aren't showing up right. No, it's all, you send out one instant alert at the end of S1 and tell all the parents to print the report card. Done. That's nice. That's real nice. Okay, so we'll get that information out to you and make like Lenora said, Jack's going to be installing it on your sites, and then we'll provide some instructions on how to set that up. Save you a boatload of time. Report cards done, standards. If you're using standards, you're going to see those here for a student. Okay, not really any too much here. Elementaries, you're going to see that's really a big thing down there. And we do have standards workshops. If you're thinking about going to that, make sure you ask the help desk or shoot Rob Schaefer an email. He's the one that handles most of that. And we can get you signed up for some standards workshops too. Student dashboard, not really that pretty. With the new upgrade, things got kind of ugly here, you know, so we'll be looking for a correction there sometime on that. But yeah, it's not looking real nice now. Personally, I didn't use the student dashboard a whole lot. Counselor dashboards there if I wanted. I usually went to these fields that I wanted, you know, rather than go to the student dashboard. Grade scales. Sometimes we have students with different grade scales. If you need that, you can, you know, submit a ticket and we can help you with, you know, setting up different grade scales. Usually a school has a default grade scale and that's what they use for everyone. They might make adjustments in the classroom. You know, there's just varying things. Otherwise, but some kids do have a different grade scale for them, okay? Teacher comments, right there. There could be some comments for students. Term grades. You can go back and look at historical grades for each term. Test results are going to be here, depending on the, there you can see ACT, work keys. There might be other ones that were entered. Here too, we did it too. We enter the ACT score. It's not official. ACT is sent to e-transcript. That's the transcript that's going to the college. So sometimes we do extra work for ourselves and we enter it in because we want to print it out on our transcript and put it in the vault. Well, print the one out from e-transcript and put it in the vault if you want. Why do that? But we end up doing things like that sometimes. Okay, but it's here if you're doing it. That's where you're going to find it, under test results. Or you can go to eTran and look at it there. Test score summaries, okay. Truancies, probably not that problem in your schools. Device management, that's got to be something new there. I haven't seen that one. District specific. Again, this is an old place where they'd go and put some ACT scores. You're not going to probably see that a whole lot. Fee transactions, if you're using fees. Incidents and incident summaries. Again, that's where I don't know of any school that's using that in the state, and probably won't until it had come out where things could be exported out of there. Then it'd be a time saver and they could do it. Otherwise, log entries are the one. The student comes in, or you get something from a teacher on a student, Victoria, and you're going to submit a log entry for her. You can enter that in. Here we see a summary of log entries. Victoria has been a bad girl, okay? So she has that there. And it's nice to have that when you have those log entries, if you're creating them for her, or for, I shouldn't say for her, but for any student, it's nice. More than once it's happened where, well, we don't know what's happened. We've never had this problem with Victoria before. And well, you got the parent meeting and you bring this up on the screen and say, well, it looks like we have, it started, you're telling me it didn't happen in the elementary school, but yes, it did, and so you do those sort of things, or maybe it never. So what's changed? Why is it happening? Okay. But it's nice to have this there. Lunch transactions. You have problems with lunch, you just call Lenora. Lenora is the one that'll help you with that, right, Lenora? Not really anything that's going to be here right now. We can see our balance, but the rest isn't there. So if you're using Power Lunch, you're going to come here and you're going to see this. So you'll see the lunch status and so on. Net access, we spoke about that a little bit. You can't really rely on it, so I wouldn't worry about it. You could have a parent checking the grades every day on their mobile phone and you're not going to see that here. So not a problem. These two, really haven't used those. You probably won't. Not really anything there. Activities, this is where you're going to see, check the box for the activities the student is involved in, if you're using them. Okay, again, some schools do, some don't. All enrollment screens. This is the screen that we come to sometimes when things aren't adding up. And these will be in a different color. They'll be yellow or red, something like that. And we'll say, well, okay, there's a problem here with something. They entered the class or they exited the class before they entered it. Or, well, I see here during 4th hour, they were in Ag 1 at the start of the year. They dropped it in October. But there's also, they're showing a 4th hour enrollment for, September for another class. You got overlapping enrollments there and stuff, and you need to make things jive. And that's why I stress so much with enrolling classes. that your entry dates and your exit dates, your drop dates, okay, match. They need to make sense in PowerSchool. If you're just putting any date in, you know, you're going to have some problems. I can give you an example of a problem, okay? End of year last year, a school principal, he had students drop the class way back in January and February, but he didn't do anything with it. He just knew they dropped and he never recorded that in PowerSchool. So he did enroll them in the other class. So what do you suppose happened? And why a teacher wouldn't have said something like, hey, can't you get rid of Glenn out of my class? I'm having to take attendance for him. Well, I got to skip over him or do whatever. I'm surprised that didn't happen. But he did this for a lot of students in school. And so what do you suppose we had at the end of the year? Big mess, okay? So take care of things. Don't put it on the back burner. I'll take care of that. I'll remember, write yourself a note, whatever. It's best to do things right away and get it taken care of, okay? But this all enrollment screen is something you'd go to if things aren't jiving. You're getting messed up data. That's one of the things we'll check. Function screen. Here's where you might come, I need to transfer this student out of school. Another place you can print the report. I'm going to re-enroll a student in school, transfer to another school. And we're seeing that in summer school information, which we don't, you know, some schools have that, okay? Create a new enrollment, sometimes is used by those enrollment people, okay? Recalculate the lunch balance, might be a place you want to remember. Things aren't jiving, that's the first thing you can go to right there. Okay, so some information there under functions. Special programs, talk about that. You know, if you're not involved with it, you're probably never going to really use it. Transfer info screen, right there we see that. This is something that again is important. Had a school yesterday that they changed their start date. So if you change your start date of school, and what they did is they moved it back a week and a half. So if this was the case here, this student, everybody in your school is probably, let's say, starting on 7/20. Well, if you move it back a week and you don't correct that in PowerSchool, you got all your kids coming to school on 7/20, but their school hasn't started yet. So that's why this is important here, okay? Your entry date, and if we were to select that, here's where you're going to see more information for that student. What date did they come to school? If you register in the summer or you come on the first day of school, the first day of school is your start date, okay? Anybody who was enrolled last year and is coming back this year, their entry date is the first day of school. Resident, and then we have all these codes that mean something here, okay? Residents are easy. They move into your school district, they're attending school there, it's done, it's easy. It's resident, and we put the district of resident as your local school, and it's done. Grade level, okay? Exit date is going to be the end of the school year, the day after the last day of school, okay? And then you submit. All right. Let's see. Transfer. Bellevue schedule. Similar to the quick lookup screen. List view. Matrix view, which I never really liked. I never really looked at that one. Modify schedule. So here's where you guys are going to be in a little bit. Students are coming in and they're doing that drop add thing, right? So this student comes in and says, yeah, I decided I'm going to drop accounting. You're going to come over here. You're going to select drop selected, or they're maybe going to drop everything, you know, but drop selected and the date. And you're going to have to think about, okay, how am I going to handle that date? Am I going to go back to the first day of school, put that date in so that it shows that he never was in the class, and then I'll enroll him in the new class on the first day of school? That's nice and clean to me. That's the way I'd handle it. But, you know, you do things the way you want, in a way, unless it's wrong, right? Okay. Or maybe I need to add him in a first period class. So I'm going to go up here and he stops in and says, yeah, I want to take first period, a first period class. I don't have one in my schedule. So I just select that and I say, okay, now I have all first period classes. I want a class that's going to meet with S1, and the teacher is going to be Mr. Clausen. Oh, looks like Mr. Clausen doesn't have any. We know Bob Bauman, he's got some first hour ones, I think, didn't he? Yep, there we go. There's that accounting class. So now I'd go again, what's my first day of school? I want to maybe change that back to, I don't think it does. I think July 20 was the date there. So I'm going to go there, and I'm going to enroll this student in that class. So I'll select accounting. There it goes. Now they're enrolled in that class. So it's a real quick way to modify schedules for students. They're probably coming with, schedules, or they could be schedules done, and there's always changes that need to be made, and that's how you're going to do it, paying attention to the dates. Or you're going to be doing some mass enrolling. If you've never done or completed scheduling before, and it's your job to do that here before school starts, you submit a ticket and say, I've never done this. I want somebody to hold my hand and go through it. And we will call you and maybe do a Teams chat, or it's going to be over the phone, and we're going to walk you through that. And if we have to spend an hour, we're going to spend an hour. If we need to spend more, we'll do that, because we want you to get it done right, okay? And you want it done right. And last thing you want is the first day of school and there's mass confusion. That's a nightmare, So there's already enough confusion on that first day when everything is right. So don't hesitate to call. Don't sit there and go, I think I can figure it out myself. Just submit a ticket, okay? Request management is done. That's more scheduler when people are doing that in spring of the year. Same thing with the request future year. Scheduling setup. We see that with some students. What is going to be their next year grade? That's kind of one that if I was a secretary and was enrolling students in school, this would be part of my checklist to take care of when students come in. I'd fill out their next year grade. I'd fill out their next school indicator. They're going to be part of, Edutech's high school or whatever school they're going to. What is their year of graduation? Schedule this student. If you're using Power Scheduler, you'd want that. And then what is their next school indicator? If they're at the middle school and grade, say 7, and next year they're going to the high school as an 8th grader, I'd put the high school down. And then it's done. But, that should be part of your notes. ADA troubleshooter, just some information you can take a look at. I've never really used that at all. GPA validation and student report. I didn't really use these a whole lot. This GPA validation can be handy, and it should be. It's not. We're weighted. It can be handy for this reason right here. You're thinking it's not working out. This happens all the time where parents call, a student calls, whatever. My GPA isn't right. It's not correct. I think usually they're thinking it should be higher, right? So you'd come here and you'd take a look at this and say, well, I'll take a look at it and see. And usually, you heard me mention the points is usually something that's not correct. That's usually we're in areas that they didn't put. They got an A, but they didn't put in the GPA points, or it was wrong. They put in a 3 or whatever. Okay. Also, we look over here, and it might be, I see here that we're including your A that you got in Phi Ed in the GPA, and it shouldn't be. So that's where you might see this being used. Other than that, don't really see it being used a whole lot. See the student report. I didn't really use that a whole lot neither. Okay, different reports you can go to. Now, since we're on reports, let's talk about those, or we mention them, because this is where we want to spend a little time. A lot of people like them, and I'm going to start off right with the good ones. These PSCB custom reports, they're the ones that I think we still go back to some of these system reports and then go to the custom tabs, but this is where we really see a bulk of people going to. And really, there's no way, we don't have enough time to go through all of these. if you're able to come to PSUG activity, which this year is going to be in Fargo, hopefully, there's a whole session on, PSCB custom reports and going through those. But again, you're able to spend a little time here too and go to attendance. Now look at all the different attendance reports you can run that are already created for you. I mean, how sweet is that? It used to be you'd have to sit there and go, okay, I got to try exporting this stuff out, or I got to try creating lists. It's all done for you. That's what's nice. But you want to go in here. Now, these daily attendance ones, I can eliminate those for you. Typically, we do meeting attendance in North Dakota here. So you're going to do these and the school attendance. Don't worry so much about these up here, but anything below that down here, that's nice. And play with that. See what you get with each one, okay? Meeting attendance, search by frequency. That's where I was mentioned earlier with student attendance and how many days they've missed. Some of these reports are going to give you for the whole school. Boom, you got all your students done, okay? And you don't have to go through, oh, well, what do I want? Let me try something else. You'll get those, okay? So play with those a little bit. That's in the attendance tab. Contacts, I like this one. So we go in here, and a main one I do here when a school calls, they'll say, hey, Glenn, I have all my contacts done. Go ahead and set my flags for me, and I'll mass fill them for these schools. I'll come here and look at this contacts, and I'll say, yep, look at the contacts, and I'll do a search. And I probably shouldn't have done that because I'm going to get a boatload. This is going to take forever in this site. I'm going to back up on that. I'd get all the people that have duplicates. In most schools, if you haven't switched the contacts, there's going to be a lot of duplicates because Glenn Wyman had 2 children in school. He'd be a contact for each one of those. Plus, I was an emergency contact for the neighbors' kids for each one of their kids. So I'd be listed for each one of those. And, maybe I had some other friends that put me down too as a contact. So I'd have all these. We had one lady in one school one time. She was like 12. She was entered 12 times because she had a daycare and she was grandma and her grandkids all went to school. Well, that's where you get duplicates, and we'd clean those up with contacts. Here's one that you might like. Somebody called the school. You see the number there and you go, who in the world was it that called? I don't know, but they keep calling. You could enter that number in, submit it, and find out who's calling. Okay, so remember that one. That's kind of nice. Student lists, I really don't do much. You can get with these, depending on what you want. Again, you can look at those reports and see what's available, okay? Enrollments, you're going to go ahead, look at what you can do for enrollment. Search for the entry codes. Remember I spoke about doing that pre-enrolled, who's pre-enrolled? Well, you can look for those codes, okay? They're right here. Fees, if you're doing that, grading, see what's going on. You can take a look at the teacher's grade book, stored grades, missing grades. We had a lot of that going on last spring. Hey, am I able to find out which students are missing grades? They can go into here. Sometimes my way of thinking as principal, I don't know how much I want to do in a teacher's grade book. Why should I have to go and search all of this? I'm calling them down to the office and we're going to talk down there and they can show me in their grade book and I'll just ask them, well, this, that, and the other thing, you have those questions and take care of it. Why should I spend all my time looking and trying to cipher that out? Health office, incidents, log entries, school board wants to, how's things been going? Could I get a summary of all the, log entries you've had this year? Yeah, okay, there it is. You can print that out for them. Lunch, a couple lunch reports in there you can run if necessary. I guess just one. You can run your other ones through lunch over on the left. Miscellaneous reports, list of siblings, birthday list. Sometimes birthdays are big in the elementary, okay? So different things we can run there. You've seen the student alert ones there also. So you're just going to kind of play with these. All right. You're going to look at those and see which ones you're going to use. We have scheduling the current year. Look at all of them that you can run there. Students that are not enrolled in a course, it might be kind of handy for you. Teacher class counts, just it kind of, everybody's going to be a little bit different here on what your role might be in school. Standards, student data verification, systematic testing, transportation validation. Okay, so you use what works for you. Now, those are the PSEB custom reports. You won't work in ReportWorks, and you're really not going to do anything with SQL reports, depending on what your role might be. If you're running the homeless reports or something like that, you might do that. Okay, and that'll be provided in instructions when they come out. System reports, we select that. Okay, so this very first page that comes up, these are things that, reports that you want to become a little bit familiar with too. Okay. Again, depending on your role, what that is. You have these absentee reports up here that you might run, attendance summary by grade. Okay, that might be something you're going to do. As we go down, another common one that we see is, boy, it's way down, there we go. ADA. You'll hear that discussion on ADA, enrollment by date and student and so on. I'm not going to run these. You can do them yourself. When school gets started, you're not going to have any information there, but you're going to see the membership. This student was had a membership out of 180 or 182 days, had 175, and was absent this many days. That's where that attendance report or perfect attendance would work. Because you could export that out then into an Excel document and sort by zeros, days missed and so on, and look at all your zeros and go, okay, there's my perfect attendance, these kids. That works out real nice. There's some enrollment things you can do here and look at, and just all kinds of reports. Again, you're seeing a lot of extra ones because this is our test site. You're not going to have that many there. Now, if you select the engine, here are some more, and we looked at this earlier with that low grades report that we ran, okay? You'll see that for activities. Depending on, what you're doing, this is another one that we end up running a lot, and I'm gonna run that one for you because that's a handy report right now. I just ran this for a school yesterday or the day before. I went to engine, or first I went to system reports, engine, course information. I set all of these the way I wanted them. Really, you don't need this credit type and CIP code and vocational class. That's more of a graduation progress thing that I said we're not doing anymore. So it really means nothing. So why have it there? I'm going to set all. That'll set my defaults. I'm going to sort by course name rather than course number. Okay. I'm going to submit that. And now I'll view this. And here's what I like. I can go here and I can take a look and see if things, are correct or not. I'm looking at it going, okay, these are my classes. There's algebra. Yep, it's, a lot of schools, it won't be this messed up. It'll be 0.5 for everything. Is it included in the GPA or not? Okay, you're going to want to know that. Class rank, honor roll. But here's what we did with that school. It was a grade scale issue with, the default and versus another one. And we were looking, well, which school or which grade scale was being used? Well, we can see what grade scale is being used for each class. That's nice. Okay, so it's a nice printout, all these classes, what grade scale, how are things set up? Nice little report to run once in a while, and it's handy to know where that's at. So it's system reports, engine tab, course information for PS7. And in some schools, it just might be course information too, depending on how it was installed there. Okay, but we have some different reports here that we can run out of the engine tab also. I'm trying to find, this is one we did a lot of end of year checker here in May when we ran all your guys' end of year for you. List of families, it just kind of depends on what was put in for you here, okay? I'd say probably the most common one that a lot of you guys would use was that low grades report. Now, if I go to setup, here's where you're going to see reports that you probably created yourself. If I went to form letters, this could be a letter that a form that was developed for some reason for your school. Web ID and password, letter to parents. You created it, and let's just open that up. And if I was to go here and go to report body, here's the information that's being pulled from PowerSchool. Here's the letter that's being written, and it's providing the student ID and password. So it can be kind of handy. What we find here is, and you can see from that writing there, they're not easy to do. So usually they're stolen, they're created for one school, and we go and we steal them from that school and put them in another one and make them that way, or adjust something that's already existing, because they can be a little bit of work to do. And right now, I think most, other than standard grades report cards, you don't see a whole lot of this stuff being done really anymore. But there still is some, okay? So report setup, that'd be form letters, mailing labels. We talked about that, right? Printing mailing labels. Okay, we discussed that earlier. Take a look at the number that are there. You can create them. Object reports, these can be a nightmare. And visual, if you do a lot of this, Visual PST is a program you can buy. Schools buy that program that are doing their standards grades report cards because it's almost impossible to work with them without. If we were to take a look at this kindergarten report card here, look what you're doing when you have to create it by hand. I mean, man, you're not going to find anybody on the PowerSchool team that's going to create this by hand for you using that. They'd use Visual PST. And really, we discuss, if you want to make things and do a lot of this stuff, you probably should come to a reports workshop. And there's several of those that are offered during the school year. If it's only tweaking it a little bit and changing a couple things, we can do that. But if you're thinking, hey, I'm Cavalier and I want to build report cards for K through 6, yeah, well, you need to attend a workshop because we wouldn't do that, okay? So you'll see that object reports. I've shown you how much work they can be. Report cards. This is where you're going to develop those, and again, there's some templates that are used here. But as I mentioned earlier, we're going to add that in, and hopefully that's going to encourage a lot of schools to go paperless when they can print that report card. You take a look at if you're printing report cards, you take a look at the one you're printing for parents right now, and then you compare that to that report card that'll come out of here when we get that in your site. You're going to like it. I can't help but believe you're not going to like that report card. Pictures, that'd be a different thing. That's something that would be put in there for when they say pictures, that you load pictures in. Hey, we want the Washburn Cardinal. We want to put a Cardinal on our report card. That's where you'd load those in, and styles and so on. Okay, so that's the setup tab. The work comes with the setup tab. Custom reports. I don't find myself going here that much anymore. Not since we've done those PSCB reports. But you could come here and you could, go ahead and look at these reports. There's a number of them. Before PSCB reports, when I was the principal, I'd go to this one, this letter grades report, and it doesn't even pop up anymore. And I'd say, show me all, basically there were some settings, and show me all of the grades that, or all the students that have an F. And that's the one I'd run, but now there's that low grades report, different one. And there's other, you see in PSCB under grading, there's tons of reports you could run there. So it's just sorting through them and finding which ones meet your needs. Let's see, along the left, here's another, we've kind of covered the attendance summary. There's some different reports there. Enrollment. I want to make sure here we're getting some summary data that you can take a look at. I want to make sure I cover this birthdays by month is a plug-in. Enrollment dashboard, I think that's going to cover that at-risk information if that's important to you. Enrollment summary covered it. Health management, let somebody else do that. Whoops, I wanted to actually go to the next one. Importing and exporting. This is something you need to be careful with. And really, unless you've been to a class, you don't really want to do. Importing is the dangerous part. Exporting really isn't that bad. You're going to export. It isn't like when you export data out that, oh, I just exported it out and it's not there anymore. No, it's still there. You just exported a copy of it. So that's not bad. But as a beginning user, I don't see you going in here and doing exporting and importing. You're not going to really do that. Okay. And it's not necessary. Now, data people within your school, there's certain people, say a Williston and a Mandan and stuff, they're going to do that a whole lot more because they have people that, no, they need to go in and export data and import, and they work with this all the time and become very good at it. But you as a beginning, say principal, nah, you're not going to really do it. There's our incident management again. Inventory system is an added plugin. Master schedule. This is kind of nice too. Okay, so this pulled up and it came up with the results right away. You might have, I better get down, way down at the bottom. If yours came like this, scroll way to the bottom and go to show preferences. And I like to just go with all periods, all days, all rooms, all teachers. Whoops. Course name and then sort by list. This one's set for all teachers. And I submit that. And this, I like this one because I can look at this and you're going to see a lot of inactive classes for us, right? But in your site, you can look at this and go, okay, yeah, what do I have here now? Bob's got 7 kids in his class. That looks good, but I don't have any in Jeremy's accounting class. Maybe I need to, if I had 24, maybe I need to split those up. I can look at things that way. Okay, I can look at my enrollments. And if you have everything done in here and you only have active classes with kids in it, usually we say if you have a class here and you don't have any students enrolled, delete the section. Why have it there? It only creates problems. But now, so in your school, depending on, again, on the size and what you're offering, you could have this here and go print and, send it to an attachment. Some, depending on what your school board wants, they probably don't want a paper copy. You could say, I emailed you all an attachment of our classes and our enrollments in each of the classes. You should have that in your email. You can look at it if you want to. And they might look at it and go, oh, that looks cool. Or they might have questions, this time you're on, hey, it looks like our business ed classes the enrollments are kind of low, what can we do about that or whatever? Or they might look at the ag program that way, but they have those enrollments, okay? And you're being upfront with them on that. So that's master schedule right here. Nice program to run. We can search for attachments if we need to. Okay, that can be kind of handy. Again, our attachment server is down, but we can start looking, search for those attachments. Special functions, I believe I talked about this one already. Yep, we went through that. Sections report. This can be kind of handy sometimes. Run for all teachers, all departments, all courses. You can run that at your leisure and see what you get there. But every once in a while, we'll run that. We'll see those enrollments in each one. Be kind of handy. And you see right there, it's a PSDB report. Okay, so it was just another link to get to that report. There's our special programs. Teacher schedules. I like this one too. So we're going to use Bob because I know he's got a class schedule here. So I select teacher schedules, I bring it up, and now I can see Bob's schedule. I can see his enrollment in each of the classes. I can see S1, S2. Expression means the period they're being offered right there. Okay, course name, the section number, and so on. Okay, if I wanted to take attendance, I could take attendance for him by selecting that. But the thing I wanted to bring up here was this Power Teacher Pro. If you don't have that and you're a principal, you're going to want that, and you just shoot Lenora or I an email. You have my email there, and that's a quick setting, and I can get that on there. It's in your security settings. And now when I have that as the principal, I can select Power Teacher Pro, and I can look at this teacher's gradebook. I can't change anything. I can't do anything, but I can look at it. So I can look at this, say, semester 1 accounting. I can look at the students that are enrolled in that class. There they are. I can bring up Victoria then. And, you know, if there's assignments here, I can look at the score sheet. I could see her grade because we know what happens. The parent calls the principal to talk, and you say, well, have you talked to the teacher yet? No, you know, I'm not going to talk to that person, you know, or whatever, you know, and you can go, well, okay, let me take a look here and see. And you might be able to go to that score sheet and see if there was assignments here. You'd be able to see, well, I mean, you know, are you aware that, you know, Victoria has not turned in 5 assignments? You know, you'd be able to see that. And that's kind of nice. Okay.
One of the places where the problem with that is at the end of, and you run cards and you somebody have quarter one grade, quarter two, and it's all for the semester. And it might be how the teacher set up their grade book. So you can look at that and catch it ahead of time.
Okay, that really broke up bad for me, Lenora. I don't know if it was everybody else or just me. Could you repeat that?
If it'll be any better.
There you go. That's better. You didn't break up there.
Okay. Just saying that oftentimes when you have to look at a teacher's grade book, it's because they don't have their breakout set up correctly as for, let's say, 50% from quarter 1 and 50% from quarter 2 to equal their semester 1 grade. And so it's nice to be able to look at that on the admin side to catch some of those things. And often you notice it when you start running report cards or get that phone call from a parent.
There you go. You came in real good that time, Lenora. And that's a good point Lenora brought up, because we had that last spring where, you know, you see here, this is term weighting, and what that means is Q1 plus Q2, you know, plus E1 of some percentage points equals S1. You're putting a weight on these. A lot of times it's, you know, 40, 40, you know, 20 or something like that. Well, when schools, or I shouldn't say schools, when some teachers decide I'm doing category weighting, you really have to make sure that that teacher communicates to students and parents what that means, because they really struggle with it, and you really have to educate them on when you say tests make up 40% of the grade, worksheets make up, you know, 20% of the grade, the projects make up 60% of the grade, but there was only 2 projects, but they made up 60% of the grade, you know, and that's where problems come in. And the parents can't understand how an S1 grade got to be that way, or a Q1 grade. So, I mean, there isn't too many people that do it, but it does come in that once in a while, that category weighting can be not so cool. Okay, and you might see category weighting more as a Q1, as a Q2, but term weighting in S1, you know, so it's just something to think about. If you have a teacher that goes, I think I want to do category weighting, you want to pump the brakes there a little bit and talk to them about that, okay? Let's see, where was I at here? Okay, teacher schedules. So that Power Teacher Pro, we've shown that. Let's jump back to that start page. You'll find yourself going there quite a bit. That's a good place to go. Teacher reports, student search. Okay, you're gonna probably most of the places you're gonna do your student searching up here. We better talk about the staff tab here a little bit. Staff is the same way. So we bring up staff. Now you see these have changed. We can search here. We have our teachers or staff directory. Okay, that's going to bring up, and we're going to have a huge staff directory here, but it's going to be all your active staff. Now, just a ticket I had the other day, and makes me think we should bring it up now, is Glenn was teaching at, let's say, Washburn. I'm teaching at Washburn. I left. The new person came in. And how do we take care of that? Well, the easiest way is to leave Glenn as the ag teacher. Okay, I'm teaching ag. I'm there. New guy comes in. Mike comes in. Mike's the new ag teacher. What I do then is I can go here to teacher schedules and select the new, let's say the, Bob had a class here. I'll go to his. I go to Bob. Let's say Bob's the teacher, the existing teacher that's there. Okay. And I go to his class, and now I'm going to put the new teacher with Bob. So I go to sections right here. I select section number. That's the important one. And I scroll down and you see where Bob is the staff member. I select him, and now I put the new teacher's name there and submit. And now all those classes went to the new teacher, and it was easy. Okay. When that's all done, then I'd come back to that teacher. I'd come back to Bob here, and I'd bring him up. I've now transferred all his classes out. He's no longer this would all be clean, right? Because I gave them all to the new teacher. Now I could go to his information tab, and I'd come down here and I'd change him from a teacher to not assigned, and I'd take this check mark out of active, and then I'd submit. Now he's no longer an active teacher in the school. So that's the way you want to do things. What happened with that ticket was they got kind of excited and made all the teachers they had last year inactive, but they still had all their classes with them. So we had to search for that inactive teacher and make them active again and take their classes out. And remember, inactive students and inactive teachers, we search for them with that /. Okay. And then we do the search, and they come up, and they're going to be an inactive teacher. And then you get rid of the classes. So remember that a teacher leaves, you want to clear out their schedule. A student leaves, you want to drop them from all the classes before you transfer that student out. You don't want to have classes attached to them when you do that. That's a no-no, okay? So staff right there. I've talked a little bit about contacts already. Oh, the other thing about staff and students,
Glenn, I don't know if you can hear me, but you froze and we can't hear you anymore. Okay, I'm not sure if we lost Glenn. Can the rest of you hear me? Somebody would want to.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm not sure. I did send him another message there quick because I don't know if he knows he got lost. So we'll hang on just a second and see if he comes back on. I did put him back in, so it's calling him. We'll see if it goes through. The joys of working remotely. There, I'm seeing your picture. Are you back, Glenn? It shows that your mute is on.
There we go. But yeah, I connected with my phone. For some reason, I was dropped here with my call. Oh, wait, I'm back.
There you go. So not sure exactly where it cut off. You were going over things for the teacher's schedule, but.
Okay.
And then you have to go back to screen sharing again also.
All right. And you can see everybody can, you guys are coming up a little different for me. Yeah, I don't know what the world happened there. Okay, we're good.
Yep, looks good now.
Okay, great. Whoa, no, what happened here? Test one, let's get logged back in. Yeah, I lost my internet connection. It was like, man, that's never happened before. Well, what the world? Hey, Lenora, are you able to take over here for a little bit till I get, I'll unshare, and if you could share your screen and pick up from there, I got to figure out what's going on here.
Oops, sorry, I'm talking and I had my mute on. Test one is working good for me, so yes, I will.
Okay, yeah, mine isn't loading, so if you could take care of that, or take it from here, that'd be good. I'll let you know when I'm back, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Hang on, everybody. Okay, gotta move things around a little bit here. Okay, so hopefully you guys can all see my screen then. And we were looking at the staff tab and under teacher schedules. Just going back to that, we looked at what you would need to do if you need to move teachers around to the new teacher that is coming in. One other part on here, and of course you're always looking under a section number. So especially at the beginning of school year, if there are sometimes schools that are still finishing up getting new teachers, and sometimes you have to rearrange your schedule. So that is also done here. This is where you would change which period something is offered. Sometimes that would happen, and it's just a simple click to change it from one period to another period, and you would submit that. If you do have to change the term, you would want to make sure that you submit a help ticket, because if there are students enrolled in this class right now, everything is set up for them using these dates. You can easily switch it right here, let's say to semester 2, but those students are going to be still enrolled under these incorrect dates. So there are things that we would need to change on our end of it for that. Okay. Something else we need to cover would be enrolling a new staff member. So on the left, you do have where you would enroll students, of course, and right under that is to create staff. So let's look at what happens there. Just as you do with students, you would also add information here. Normally the title is their job title. You want to fill in as much information as you can. And actually for schools that will be starting to do the MISO3 process through this, you do need to have the date of birth in there. And then you can assign what they are. Are they a teacher, a staff member belonging to lunch, or substitute? In order for them to show up under teacher schedules, it does have to be teacher rather than staff. So I'm just going to actually go and I will just pick myself so that we can look at what happens once you have actually entered somebody in there. So on the left for these people, you would first automatically, it's coming up for a current schedule. So these are the classes that I am teaching at this particular school. In my test scenario, I also have elementary classes. So then it shows anything else that's taught in another school. Your information screen is pretty much a lot of that information you had initially. Again, for MISO3 information, you'll want to fill in ethnicity, race, and the reporting ethnicity. Fill in as much information as you can on here. And then let's go down to North Dakota state reporting information. On this page, you do have to put in the license number for the teacher, and that comes off of their teaching certificate, of course. One other thing to be aware of on this, we want to fill in the information as to what somebody is teaching. So for instance, here we would look at what the primary instruction role is, and it would be for a teacher. So we would find that one. So let's say if it was somebody that was the library, we would be marking that. Some people are partial teaching something else. So sometimes you might have somebody who's a principal half the time and teaching half the time. So we would have to be putting those in here with the correct amount, and all of this would have to be filled in. I'm not going to do that for a sample one here. When you start entering all this other information though, you need to have whatever is considered their primary responsibility for the school. So if you do have a split teacher, like my scenario is, if the main responsibility is teaching at the high school versus the elementary, that's where all this information gets filled in. And any of you who have done principal duties before and know at the end of the year all the MISO3 information that has to go in, this will be huge time saver once this is done. We do have a special training before people are able to have this turned on to submit their information to the state for MISO3, because it's very important that all of this be entered correctly for that. So let's go back to the start page. Whoops. We'll finish up with the staff person there. There also are specific reports just for staff members. We don't have much in our test site. You may have more than that. If there were photos involved for staff members, that would be there. Schedule setup. This is used for schools who are using Power Scheduler. Security settings. This is where you would find what the teacher has for their main school. In my particular case, I have several schools listed here. So even though we have under EduTech under the whole district for this site, we have all these schools. For me as a teacher, I only have access to these 4 schools. So you can add, if a teacher needs to be added to both an elementary and a high school, you could do that here. This is also where you give them access. If you have that new teacher, they need to have the check mark to say that they're signed into Power Teacher. You give them a username and a password, and once they go in, they change that password to whatever it is they choose. And hang on once I'm seeing something for a chat. Okay. So we also have a couple other tabs up here. Admin access and roles. So this is what is giving you permission right now to be signed into your school. You are checked as having permission to be signed into the admin side. You have a username and a password. There are default groups that are set up which have different sets of permissions for them. So sometimes you might even have, lots of schools will have something, I don't see it in our site right now, for a lunch group. So sometimes they might have the person who is doing the lunch who is set up only to take students coming through the line, but they maybe don't have access to all the information for a student to see if they are reduced or full pay or free. That can be a confidentiality issue. So depending on what default group you have, there are different permissions assigned. You also have the different schools listed here as to, I have access to all of these schools as an administrator. But remember, as a teacher, I only had access to 4. So this is where that is determined. Most of you, unless you're teaching something also, you won't have anything listed under teacher. This is also where we go in and can give that Power Teacher Pro view access, where Glenn was showing you before when you can go into a teacher's grade book. So that is all done here. Applications. We don't use the ReportWorks anymore. I could actually just as well take that out, and we are a Power Teacher Administrator, but mainly you would look at these 2 tabs for any access for them. Okay, on the left we also have any transactions. So this would be if the teachers are paying to eat their meals there, or if there are special fees assigned to staff members, that would be done. The Power Teacher Pro takes me actually into my own grade book because I'm set up as a teacher. So if you as the administrator are looking at one of your teachers and you do have that Power Teacher Pro set up there, it will give you access to their grade book. And then this is just the bell schedule of my classes that I'm teaching. So I see Glenn is back. We just went through the whole staff screen on the side. These custom screens would be specific to our test site, not to you. So you would all be looking at the things that are in the main functions part. Okay, one other part I know we did not go over is any new courses. So for most of you, your courses are already set up at your school. There aren't a lot that need to be added anymore. But it does happen once in a great while. So all of your courses, you always want to be looking at the district office if you can. Some of you may not have access to the district. Glenn, before I go on with courses, I don't know if you have something else you want to wrap up with, but I was going to look at adding new courses or.
Nope, that'd be fine. I think I'm back in business here. Wow, I had to restart my machine, and yeah, I don't know what the world happened there. So I was just going to leave some time with questions, you know, if they had, but yeah, if you want to wrap that up, that'll be good. And then we'll go right into questions.
Okay, I'll be quick on doing courses. So if you can, you go to the district office because you always want to look there. I'm going to click on district on the left and then look at courses. This usually is not open, but it really should be. Anytime you're looking to, before you add a course, it's sort of like a new student. You always want to check if there's already something available there. So we want to make sure we check the active classes, inactive, and unavailable. Normally when you come in here, these two are not checked. So you'd want to check them, and you also want to add as short of a name as possible for whatever course you're looking for. Just because you can see under ALG, all the different types of algebra that are listed here. So if we do need to add a new course, we would choose new course here. Before you do it, you need to have all your information. So you need to know what course number you want to use within your own school. The alternate course number, in our case, this is not filled in, but you have to have this course number in there. This is all of what relates to the state to give the students any type of credit for having taken this class. You'll want to know how many credits you're going to be giving it. If it's going to include in your GPA. All that information has to be in there. And then you would create a new course for it. Okay, I will leave it up there because you just got 10 minutes left, Glenn. That's just a quick thing on courses.
Okay, I wanted to leave some time for some questions for you guys on what you might have that's maybe real specific to what you're doing today or this week. Who has a question there that you'd like answered? And maybe while remember you're muted, you need to unmute your mic. Why somebody's thinking of that, probably a big thing to think about, or something that we would encourage you to do, is we have a number of trainings. Hopefully they're not going to be all virtual. We really prefer to come out to schools or come to your area. We like to go to Williston, or well, I should say Williston. We do go to Williston, but we have our more or less our regional areas that we go to. We offer a lot in Bismarck and Minot, and that way we can get people coming from all over into those areas and offer courses where you can attend. And especially as a new admin and a new user, you should try to attend as many as you can. We offer what we call Power School Users Group meeting. This year it's in Fargo again. Last year it was also. really worked out well. That's in November. Sign up for that. It's 2 days of mini sessions that you can attend and just really, you can pick and choose what you're going to, beginner to advanced, and just some good sessions. And you know what? By November, you're ready for a little trip out of town anyway. So you go there and you maybe bring your team with you and you go out for supper and do some real team building type stuff, you know. But you learn Power School at the same time, and you build relationships with other secretaries that you can go, oh, I talked to, you know, Jill, she was doing this, I'm going to do that, or this is how she handled it. You get a lot of those questions answered. So try to attend as many training sessions as you can. That, I think, is just really huge.
And just a quick point out at the end of your document, the very last page, when we talk about submitting a help ticket when you need help, and some of you have actually already done that, but directions are on that last page for you to get set up so that you can submit a help ticket when you have questions.
Okay, any questions at all? Well, if there's none, thank you for joining. Like I said, we wish Lenore and I would be there in person, but that's the, you know, it can't be that way. And again, try to get to as many sessions as you can. Submit tickets for help. Okay, don't try to go at it alone and think you can figure it out. You probably can, but let's be safe. You know, just like I mentioned, you might not think a date's an important thing, but it is. You know, enrolling, we talked about enrolling students. You don't want duplicate enrollments. You know, do that search ahead of time. Those sort of things will all save you hassles in the end. So thank you much. We'll be on if you have a question that you didn't want to ask in front of the group. Well, we'll be one of the last ones to log off. So thank you much.
Thanks, everyone. And don't forget, you can still use the chat if you want for any questions too.
Hey guys,
Hi, Holly.
I'll turn on my camera here so you can see my face.
There you go.
So yeah, we got a couple of new secretaries here. Good training today though. Went really fast.
Yeah.
Too fast. Too fast. You know,
What
especially
do you
for
guys have that might be specific that you want covered?
Glenn, I don't know if you need to, do you want to stop recording or not?
Up, good idea. There we go.